Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexi Out's here, and it's Thursday, and we're doing a Thursday think tank, and we're talking about the exit interviews for the Raptors organization this week. We had the players do interviews on Monday, and we had like an hour and a half of interviews with 9 players. On Tuesday, we had about a half-hour interview with Darko, and then yesterday, we got about a half-hour video interview with Bobby Webster. And well, they're all going over the state of the Raptors going in the offseason and where their heads are at and what they see and how they feel. And there was a lot of information from Bobby Webster yesterday in his season ending press conference. To me, he's very happy with the success of this year. And it seems like what he described was that the Raptors have transitioned from a rebuild development kind of stage to a team that's a playoff team that should be looking at the next level and adding pieces and making changes to the team to compete at the next level. And, Bobby got asked, is there any kind of things holding you back as far as with ownership, whether they're going to give you money to get big contracts when the time is right, when we're close to the championship? And he said, yes, that the support of Keith Pelly and Ed Rogers is there, and he's appreciated working with Keith Pelly this season. That's a good sign because it's true. Last time we went over the tax, we won the championship, and in some ways, that's part of the timing. Where do you figure out? Okay, we're close. We need to do this to get to this. Well, Bobby said yesterday we're closer to that mode, like Mark Gasol in the past, than we think. And then in the next couple years, we could be very much activating win now, go for the championship mode in the next 2 years. So that's a good sign. Lots of good answers from head of basketball operations of the Toronto Raptors, Bobby Webster. Lots of good answers. He was coy on some of the questions, but he was very honest and forthright with some. But some of them, he's like, no, we can't talk about this, William Lou. It's a financial consideration, and we're not talking about any money stuff right now. Can't ask me straight up if we're going to extend Darko. Can't ask me straight up what we're going to do with people like Grady and Sandro and RJ. No, you can't ask them straight up because in some ways there's things that got to be sorted out. Like with Sandro in particular, because of his player option, it's likely he's going to opt out because. And what happens is he's out there to get offers from other teams. And then Bobby can't really totally assess the situation with Mamukelashvili until he kind of understands the terrain of competition to get his services. So it's kind of like this thing where around July, the beginning of July, there will be teams that send him, I think, RFAs, restricted free agency offers, and then the Raptors have the option to match the number. And it could be that somebody outprices us, and that's how we lose Sandro. But from both parties and in both interviews this week, whether it was Sandro on Monday or Bobby Webster on Wednesday, both of them were very, very clear that the intention is to bring him back and that if all goes according to plan, he will be back in Toronto next year. But it has to do with free agency, other teams willing to spend, and what Sandro and his agent do decide. So they are working with him with the thought that he will be back with us. And it was very clear Bobby values him. Very, very clear. In fact, he described Sandro as being one of those pickups that just work perfectly. You envision how he would work, and boom, you apply him into the system, and boom, it works exactly how you wanted it to. So Sandro's definitely a success with the Raptors this year, and Sandro doesn't take that lightly. He said, some ways the choice I made about coming to the Raptors wasn't about this. It was about fit. It was about being able to get time on the court and prove that I'm a rotation player and find a place where I belong. And well, in a lot of ways, Sandro did find that this year. And there's a lot of value in that to him. In some ways, this may not rule his world completely. And, good feeling, good vibes, good people, and good energy may be more important to him. So we'll have to see. It's all got to play out this summer. And like I said, the stuff from Mamukelashvili will not get figured out until July. So he'll be sitting at home in New Jersey waiting and figuring it out. And he hopes he'll be returning to Canada at the end of the summer. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. The stuff with RJ is complicated, but not really. I think that Bobby gave some tells when the RJ question came up, and they weren't good tells. I'm going to say that right now. Same with Darko. When they asked Darko about RJ, his tells weren't that good either. And I hate to say that because, after this playoff with RJ and him hitting the shot at game 6 and the fan base coming around with him and saying, no, we need to protect RJ. We want RJ. We want RJ. And RJ saying he'd like to be a Raptor for life and he doesn't want to leave. The energy coming from that is not exactly the same. But Bobby did say this. He did say the good news is we have all of next season of him under contract, and then we can make the decision after the end of next year. That to me signals that we're going to have a lot of bullshit about RJ and his contract for the whole entire year from the media, and that they're going to be talking about him like Siakam in his last year or Fred, as far as like you need to trade him and get something for him before he just walks next season. Man, I hate that kind of stuff. First of all, you just heard the man say on Monday he wants to be a Raptor for life. And, in the perfect world, this is what way it'll go down. He'll get to play his final contract year with the Raptors on this contract. And at the end of the year, Bobby will sign him back on a new contract. And it will be a fair contract to the team and a fair contract to RJ Barrett. That's the outcome I would like to see. And hopefully that is the outcome that happens. Part of it will be that Barrett, once again, he's been doing everything he can do as far as being efficient, playing amazing. He said that in his interview on Monday. He said the biggest improvement I made this year is I found out I made myself more efficient. I had my more efficient year because Brandon came in this year. Scotty, Emmanuel, these guys all need shots. I'm getting less shots, so I have to learn how to do more with less. And that meant being more efficient. And he knocked it out of the park. He was extremely successful at making his game more efficient with more shots to go to Ingram. And, that's the thing. RJ could do everything perfect for himself on his end. As far as play perfect, hit a game 6 winner, be the fan favorite, be the hometown hero, do all this stuff. I hope it's enough to get rewarded and allowed to continue to be on our franchise after next year. But as Bobby said, the contract, at least we have him under contract for next season for sure. So we will see RJ play for us this year. And I don't know, the tells were weird, man. Darko not really giving a tell on this in a positive way. In some ways, he's very kind of deer in headlights, like with that question, and not really wanting to answer it clearly. And then Bobby not really giving the kind of tell that's totally positive for this either. I hate to say that because I want RJ to stay here for life just like he wants to. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. We'll have to see. The Grady stuff was interesting also. As far as Bobby outlined exactly what Grady needs to do to continue to be a Raptor. He outlined it, and both him and Darko talked about the problems with Grady, with why he fell out of the rotation this year and didn't really get to play much at the end. And Darko straight up said or I think it was Darko or Bobby. It could have been either one. I think it was Bobby maybe. Bobby said, you saw in these playoffs the defensive intensity and the level of defense it takes to play at that level in the playoffs. And he's talking about Grady. He said he has to be better. And Darko said the same thing. It's like, look, Grady can't hurt us on defense. This is the biggest problem with him on the court, is that he is not playing adequate defense to hold things down with us. So he needs to go into this offseason, get stronger, and really, really work hard on his defense. And that was interesting, those messages. Both of them were very positive about Grady, though. And Darko said, I believe that he'll be able to figure this out and get it right. I love what Bobby said yesterday about Grady and Jakob. He said recency bias. He said, look, Grady had an amazing second year in development, and he made jumps that year. And Jakob, well, he had a career year last year. And that's part of the reason why I signed him to the extension that I signed him to. And he went over the timeline for Pirtle, saying, from the beginning of the season, he was behind the 8 ball. And he was already having back problems at the very beginning of the season. In fact, I saw something happen this last summer when Yak was playing for Austria. He was overseas in Europe, and he was playing for Team Austria. And there was a cheap shot that somebody hit him in the back, and he went like this, and that may have been very well where he got nailed. Was in this crazy. It might have even been Georgia, Sandro's team, that kind of or one of those kind of teams from one of those countries. But yeah, he showed up in camp with his back already messed up. And the story of Jakob this year is actually his back got healthier as the year went on. Pirtle haters. Why would that guy's back get better as the season went on? Probably because he's working really hard to get it figured out and fixed. But both were very clear, especially Darko, saying that, Bobby said it too. We're going to be on Yak this year in the offseason. We're going to be watching him real close, and we're going to make sure that he's strengthening his back and he's doing everything to keep his health right for him to be optimal for the beginning of next season. So I don't know. It may very well be Yak is not playing for any Team Austria stuff this summer, because in some ways that may have been the place where he got hurt, honestly, because I saw something happen in one of those games that I was like, whoa, that was dirty. And wow, he really took a blow to his back. So I don't know if that's totally true. In some ways, it could be the injury happened in practice or somewhere. It doesn't, who knows? But there was an incident that I saw when he was playing in FIBA basketball, Euro Cup qualifiers last summer. But yeah, Bobby said this about Yak and Grady. There's recency bias. And I think this is true. I think this is true in general for a lot of NBA fans now, is they only think about what recently has happened. Then they can't widen their perception to think about a few years. Like if you think about Yak last year, not the season that just ended, but last year, you understand that extension. And well, he had an injury year this year, and his numbers didn't look totally the same as the career year he had the year before. So, and Grady has had a lot of fortuitous, very not fortuitous, very beneficial, good times on the Raptors playing, especially in his second year and the second half of his rookie year. Those were very quality developmental times where Grady was making strides and Grady was doing things to contribute to the team that helped. And well, he had a tough year this year. He had tough lessons. And as Darko said, he needs to take these lessons for motivation this summer. And from what they were saying, it sounds like Grady is taking this all as a huge motivational tool for him to come back next season and reclaim some sort of role for the Raptors on their roster. So that's the things that have to happen with Grady. Grady's got to dedicate himself this summer to hard work, getting his stamina and his strength and his defense up. And well, if he can find his 3-point shot along the way, that wouldn't hurt either. So yeah, very interesting interviews. Bobby was asked about Masai in Dallas, and he basically said, yeah, he knows all the people we like, and we know all the people he likes, and he may not be the best person to trade with. Although I would wonder this, if there are holes in either roster that are kind of helpful, the other team has a little bit more for the other team that they could give, there may be a trade there that's worked out because, Dallas may have something they have extra of that we need and vice versa. So I could see, it's obvious that they have a working relationship from before for a long, long time and a friendship. So, I mean, you at least think that there's some sort of dialogue or rapport, obviously, between Webster and Ujiri and running their teams and maybe possibly finagling a deal. So yeah, he said I'll see Masai at the combine next week, and we'll talk there probably for sure. And I really love the interviewer that asked Bobby about Teresa, Dan, Jeff, Bobby, and Masai, and how all of them are all running different organizations now. That's true. I didn't thought about that either, and Bobby hadn't either. And it is really kind of a proud moment because if you think about it, the Raptors, we the North nucleus of management for the Raptors organization, all are running their own teams now. And that's pretty impressive, honestly. They talked about coaching trees where, the Popovich coaching tree, the Pat Riley coaching tree, the Van Gundy coaching tree, the Nick Nurse coaching tree. Well, there's a Masai Ujiri GM tree. And Teresa Resch runs the Toronto Tempo. Bobby Webster still runs the Toronto Raptors. Masai's running Dallas. We got a guy down in Orlando running that team from our team also. This is pretty cool because this isn't common to have a GM tree. It's a little bit extra. And honestly, there is a We the North GM tree. Because you think about it, you got a lot of people from that Toronto front office that are running different organizations in different places, and they all work together at one point as the same team. That's pretty cool. That is very, very cool. All right, this is my little opening spiel on the press conferences this week. That's the subject for today. If you guys watched any of the interviews and you had observations, opinions, things that you have questions about, go ahead and put in the comments. You can also get me on the hotline if you have the phone number. Special RFF have the number to call the hotline and call in and voice their opinions on the phone, just like we had yesterday on the show about Masai Ujiri. So yeah, if you have any opinions or things you want to talk about with the Raptors season-ending interviews and opinions on things that were said by players or coach or GM, let me know what you think. That's right. Trevor J's in with the words of wisdom. Sometimes you got to appreciate the little things in life, like being able to see, walk, breathe, eat, sleep. It's all such a blessing to be able to do all those things each and every day. Yeah, we take a lot of this for granted, a lot of it. And the crazy thing is, a lot of these things can be taken away from you at some point in your life. There's a very scary stat in some ways, but it's true. A certain percentage of all of us will become somewhat disabled in some way. That kind of stuff can happen to people in an instant from things like car wrecks or, accidents on the job and all kinds of stuff like that. And you hate that. You don't want that for anybody. And that's why count your blessings and be very thankful that these kind of things are you have in your life, because honestly there's a lot of people running around this world right now that have no connection to these kind of things of simple gratitude. And honestly, they would ground themselves better and probably be better people if they actually understood this. But this is the way life works. Sometimes a very serious event has to happen, and then all of a sudden they wake up to this, Trevor, right? They wake up to this. So yeah, be ahead of the curve and show gratitude for the basics today, because tragedy can happen. You don't want that kind of tragedy to happen. And yeah, you get older and your body changes, and there may be changes that make you where you can't walk anymore. And these kind of things are just a reality of life. So blessings to the Jones family and all the Raptor Freak families, and value the little things. That's the message right here. That's right. Trevor J saying that Masai Ujiri and Serge Ibaka, you type it like it's the drink. His name has an E in it at the beginning. Masai Ujiri and Serge Ibaka, how hungry are you, was in Toronto last night for a Giants of Africa event. This is amazing to me. Honestly, there's something very interesting about this. In some ways, I was like, is this an old event? Is this really tonight? And I was kind of verifying it. It was like, yeah, Masai is back in Toronto the very next day after the grandiose press conference with Patrick Dumont in Dallas. Yeah, there was a signal in that too. His baby that's called Giants of Africa is so important to him. And just because Rogers dismissed him doesn't mean that entity went away. Trust me, Jeff Landicho and Kimberly and all them are still doing a lot of stuff for Giants of Africa. And Giants of Africa is an international brand. And we've seen him do Giants of Africa stuff with other teams, honestly, in other places, not just with the Raptors while he was running the Raptors here. So the Giants of Africa brand, will we see it in Dallas? I don't know. But we did see it in Toronto last night with our champion, Serge Ibaka, at the event. And Serge's message was very clear. He said that Africans need to stick together with Africans and help each other. And that, that's why he was there. And Serge very much professed his extremely deep love for the city of Toronto, calling Toronto home. And once again, just like always proud to stand next to the great Masai at an event. But yeah, I was shocked to see Masai in Toronto yesterday for a Giants of Africa event. But man, he's all over the place. Who knows? What's the signaling on that to Mavs Nation and Patrick Dumont? Well, Patrick, you wanted me. I get to do things on my terms, right? Because you're the one who really wanted me. And well, I got to go to Toronto the next day, and I got to do a Giants of Africa event that I had scheduled already. And well, you just gonna have to live with that. Yeah, I would say that Masai's got a lot of power in the situation in Dallas because they really wanted him. It's not that he really wanted them. Trust me, it's not that at all. Yeah, it's very, very interesting stuff. Hearing the reaction from Mavs Nation to Masai Ujiri's press conference, well, it's exactly like our nation used to get about a Masai presser. It's very charismatic. It's very, very inspirational. It's very much, man, we're going to be all right kind of feeling. Yeah, Mavs fans, welcome to the feelings that Masai Ujiri can instill in your fan base when he is the leader of it. Now, just imagine how he talks to the players. Just imagine how he talks to the coach. Just imagine how he deals with the personnel in the organization. Yeah, he's a high standards guy. He's going to clean house in your organization. He's going to fix it. But once again, Mavericks Nation, he has to do it without any meddling from Dumont and the ownership group. Those guys could screw this whole thing up with Ujiri. If they don't let him do the job and be the only cook in the kitchen, they could screw it up because of their opinions and what they want. Yeah, he has to be the sole visionary. He has to be the one that guides and tells them everything. Because if that doesn't happen, it's not going to be successful. Trust me. That's what happened here in Toronto. And that's how it worked for us. So Mavs fans, in some ways, you need to hold your ownership group accountable to stay the fuck out of the business. And then you'll get the goods from Masai. In some ways, the more I think about this, the more I'm like, you know what? Masai is going to do something good for the world, for the Dallas Mavericks, for the NBA. Because this is a thing. It's once again, this is one of those dumb things. And I should have realized this, that when you're in Toronto and you're doing things for Toronto, nobody sees what you're doing up here. So nobody knew that Masai was this badass because nobody watched his press conferences except for Raptors fans. And now general NBA fans watching Masai's press conference with the Mavs yesterday, and they're like, man, that guy's spitting bars. That guy's a G. That dude is badass, man. Whoa, man. I wish he was running my team, said all the fans of the different teams around the league. And Mavs fans like, man, I feel so good now. It's amazing how Masai effect can happen like that. You rob a team of Luka Doncic. You have a horrible GM named Nico Harrison and a horrible ownership group. And the fans are so pissed and they want to riot. They're coming to the game. They're booing the whole game. They're protesting outside the arena. Well, how do you fix that? You get Ujiri. You get Ujiri. You bring in Ujiri. And Ujiri calms everything down. He talks to the fans. And they listen to him. And they're like, whoa, this guy's good. I feel good about things again all of a sudden. Like we're back on the right path. That's him. That's him. And the rest of the NBA is just finding it out because they didn't pay attention to Raptors in any kind of way. And all the Masai Ujiri speeches and press conferences that we've seen for years now, they're going to start seeing them down there. And in some ways, this is going to get more respect for our team, y'all, because people will be like, wow, now I start to understand why the Raptors are the way the Raptors are. Because this dude is a badass and he is a culture setter and he is somebody that can get your franchise in the NBA out of the mud. And well, they're going to find out more and more. And in some ways, I like that because it's a U.S. spotlight and they'll see who he is for who he really is. And he's going to blow up. He's going to blow up. It's like people, Laker Nation. There's people all over the NBA that saw that press conference. They probably never watched Masai Ujiri press conference up here hardly at all. And now they're like, wow, I didn't realize he was like this when he talks. And wow, I want to run through a wall for him right now. Yeah. I mean, in some ways, that's a cool effect of it all. And maybe what we were saying yesterday could be true, that he's going to change culture, not just in Dallas, but also in Texas, and maybe even across the United States. Like this could be, honestly, something where Masai Ujiri can help the world in Trump America with their bullshit to see humanitarian work and caring about other people is a cool thing. And he's a good role model for that. And who knows? Maybe he can set the example and we'll see more people that would normally be assholes and only think about themselves get out of their own fucking asses and think about other people for once, because that's what Masai represents. In some ways, you know, he's such a cool dude. You're going to be like, man, I want to be like him. Well, if you want to be like him, you better be progressive. You better be global, and you better be forward thinking in a positive way and not such a person stuck in the 1600s and freaking old USA slavery times and shit. You know, seriously, just get with the program and let's go forward. Let's be progressive and let's progress with Masai in Dallas. Yeah, I have a feeling that this could be a really weird side effect because the response to Ujiri's press conference has been overwhelmingly positive. He's very powerful, and he's managed to turn a lot of disdainful, pissed off Mavericks fans into having hope. It's amazing how powerful he is in that way. And he's not full of shit. That's the other thing they need to realize down there. He will do this job if they let him do it correctly. He will do this job. He's not all talk and he's like bullshitting. No, he's for real. When he says this stuff he's going to do it. And he'll fix your team if Patrick Dumont will get out of the way. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff, man. I'm going to be watching this very closely because in some ways I want to see the positives of this situation with Ujiri. I don't want to look at all the ugliness as far as like, wow, he's going to be making millions and billions of dollars for genocide. That's horrible. Well, if he can make a positive impact in other ways around this all, fantastic. That's what I want. That's what I want. Trevor's saying the Tempo will make their final roster cuts today. Yeah. Yeah. I found out that Yvonne Ejim earlier, even though she was signed to a training camp contract with us, she is sitting out this season and she will not be a part of the Tempo. It could very well be that little move was made to put her in the fold or get rights to her through to the Tempo. I don't know why Yvonne's not playing this year. It could be that she's hurt and she's already injured and she can't play. I don't know what it is, but she's not a part of the cuts, you know, because they added 2 players in the last 2 days, the Greek player Fazu and Canadian Yvonne Ejim. And that would have brought the number up to 17 on their roster. Now, everybody keeps saying they got to cut down to 12, but I keep thinking, well, you got 12 plus the 2 developmental spots. So it's really 14. So if they have 17 players, we're really cutting down 3, right? Because everybody's saying different numbers about which ones you cut down to cut down. But if Ejim's not really in the picture, she's cut. And Fazo is on development spot already. I was hoping they put Tuyani Key in the other one. And then you got to figure it out between the fringe players that are right on the edge of making the team. Now, I think Maria Conde is going to be on this team for sure. That Sandy has been glowing about her, and everything she said. She's the best European player that hasn't played in the WNBA yet. So she should be in there. Milic is kind of important too for size. And then, you know, it's really between some sharpshooters that are probably going to get cut. I hate to say it, but the Lithuanian Laura Juskade is probably going to get cut. And it's very likely that Kitty Laxa will get cut. and maybe even Lexi Held. Lexi Held, even though she had an amazing first game for the tempo in the preseason, because in some ways the guard position is already really filled up for the tempo. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting day. They will finalize the roster today. And if there's breaking news about it, guys, go ahead and direct me to it so we can react to it on the show if they come out with it today, Trevor. So let me know in a comment if they do make a cut while we're talking, Trevor J. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Trevor's brought up that the Sixers are down 2-0 and the Spurs now 1-1. Yeah, in the NBA playoff action last night, the Knicks once again beat down Philadelphia for a 2-0 lead in that series. Knicks fans are very, very awful. They were attacking a Philadelphia fan after game one, ripping his jersey off his back and just being low class like they normally are. There was a Reddit post I saw the other day asking who has the worst fans in the league. And overwhelmingly, people said the top three were the Knicks, the Celtics, and the Sixers. Those three nations were the worst fan nations in the NBA. And I think the Knicks are number one. I think the Knicks are number one. I think that maybe the Sixers are second and the Celtics are third. But yeah, it's and we didn't get mentioned at all, which I loved. I looked through the whole post and nobody said Raptors fans are the worst fans. As far as not like being bad fans for their team, but just being assholes and doing shit like what that Knicks group did to that Philly fan after the game on game one. Apparently the guy's fine though. The Philadelphia fan appreciates everybody caring about him and he's okay. Because yeah, we don't need this kind of extracurricular BS. And Knicks fans are the worst, honestly. They'll win one game in the playoffs and they'll act like they won a championship. So yeah, they deserve to fail at some point in this whole process getting to Larry O'Brien. They deserve to fail. That's right. Come on, Nick. Go get him. Go get him for Steve, is what I'm saying right now. Yeah, the Spurs, fantastic. I love this. This was a big margin, too. They really kicked the shit out of the Wolves last night, and they needed to right the ship. In some ways, I was worried about this series getting determined by the experience of the Wolves versus the inexperience of the Spurs. And, this whole, man, there's so much. You know what I've realized now at this point is some of the European or foreign stars in the NBA, like SGA and Wemby, they get all kinds of stupid shade thrown at them that's not fair. The whole campaign about SGA right now that a lot of people are saying in the media about him being a foul baiter and he's ruining the game and all that. I hate this shit. It's so biased. In some ways, if it was an American guy, they probably wouldn't do this to him. The other thing is with Wemby and the blocks. Wemby had like 12 blocks in game one, and they're all trying to take away from that accomplishment by saying most of them were goaltends or fouls. This is awful. Why can't we stop blemishing achievements in the NBA with counterpoints and all kinds of propaganda and bullshit like this? This is part of the reason why the NBA's product is so bad, is because there's so many people trashing individuals and the league and teams and everything all over the place. And, after a while, you trash everything so much in public perception on media shows like ESPN and what they do. You really do start to make the value of your product go down. This is not serving anything in the league to come at Victor or SGA about the way they play and downgrade their achievements. That's not how you do this, Adam Silver and the people that cover the NBA. You need to have this look bona fide and you don't need to poo-poo it, because in some ways that's what takes some of the luster and that's what downgrades the product, is the negativity about the players and the things about the league. People complain. Charles Barkley's always complaining about this, about the league and that, and they always make the league sound bad. Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Colin Cowherd, all these guys talking trash about the NBA. And well, the NBA doesn't look as cool or valuable. And people are like, yeah, you know what? They're right. They're talking bad about it. And I believe what they're saying. And then all of a sudden the NBA loses revenue. It's like, you don't have to be overly positive and weird ways that are like that, but maybe cut out all this critic bullshit. Seriously, don't encourage it, because what happens is the fans see the people on TV like Stephen A and Skip Bayless, and they try and be like them. Like they think that they're Stephen A. Smith and they can be on comment boards and be all sassy and like negative and all fucked up. Yeah, that's a big problem with what's happening with the NBA right now is that they're just they put down their own product with their own people that are covering it. And people start to believe, yeah, you know what, this does suck. You know what, I'm gonna turn it off. Adam Silver, you don't want that, right? Right? You don't want that. So maybe you need to do a memo to the important people in the media for the NBA and say, stop trashing people like SGA and Wemby and different people around the league that are doing really amazing things. And if some of y'all are doing it because you're pro America and you hate foreigners in the NBA, fucking stop that right away, too, you xenophobic pieces of shit. That's what I say right now, because it does seem like are they saying this kind of stuff about the American guys that do this or the guys that show up for this or this, like Joel Embiid, who's not really American, but was on Team America and he does the flops just as bad as anybody. I mean, come on now. You're selling a product and you're not selling it very well, is what I'm saying. Trevor's saying this NBA Combine this coming Monday, May the 10th, I guess is what you meant to say there. Let me see where I jumped ahead. May the 10th to the 17th will be on ESPN, and the G League Combine 8 to 10. 8 to 10. What do you these are dates, right? Man, you got to flesh this out. You're giving me half the information. Yeah, okay. So the combine's next week. We don't need all the dates. Just say the combine's next week. This is important news, this one. And it's very interesting because he just had his birthday. Like we just celebrated his birthday a couple of days ago. Actually, it was yesterday, honestly. I think he retired on his birthday, guys. Jonas Valanciunas retired yesterday, guys. He retired from basketball. He said he retired from basketball. I don't believe him. He retired from the NBA. They should word it correctly because he didn't retire from basketball. No, he's going to go play overseas back home in Lithuania and play in a Lithuanian league. Watch. He'll still play. Watch. It just won't be in the NBA. I told y'all he didn't really want to play this year with the Nuggets, but he was forced to because he was under contract. He didn't really want to play this year for the Nuggets. He did. He fulfilled his contract. He's a good guy. He fulfilled his obligation, but now he's peacing out. Yeah. Jonas Valanciunas, Raptors draft pick, 2012, I believe. Retired yesterday. He's not going to be in the NBA anymore, guys. So we got a big salute to JV. We love you, man. You got a Drake nickname, and you're just a very important Raptor in a building block in the KC era. And your time with DeRozan and Lowry and Ross and all those guys, that's an important era of the Raptors. And you are a big man from that era, JB. So we love you, Jonas Valanciunas of Lithuania. You and your family, you had your kids here. Toronto means so much to you. You can come back to Toronto anytime, my guy. And you sit in the audience and we will cheer the hell out of you, man. So you come back, alumni, and you come back and get your shine from the Raptors fans. We love you, JB. Even when you played your later years in the NBA with your big beard and on other teams, and you look like a Bond villain, you still were a Raptors legend. So salute to Jonas Valanciunas on his retirement yesterday at the age of 33. Yeah, this is his birthday. He did it on his birthday. That's right. He retired. Yeah, that came out yesterday that he did retire. JV retired. Yeah, he's done with the NBA. I think he didn't mind being Jokic's caddy for the year, but in some ways also it's like he didn't really want to even play this year. I know he didn't. I said this last summer, and even though he did circle around and play that last year in Denver, he didn't really want to be there this whole year. I'm just going to say that, guys. I know it. I know deep in his heart he didn't want to be there. Yeah. Yeah, Smooth saying, all right, man, Reggie, I really want you to work on your comments sometimes. My thinking is for RJ to stay. Someone else here will have to go. Okay, I like that comment. When I first saw it, I was like, what's he saying? Yeah, we'll just have to see how it all plays out. We won't get ahead of ourselves. That's why being present is so important. Some people are crazy. They're on Reddit right now saying, I can't wait for the expansion draft so somebody will take Jakob Poeltl. It's so dumb. Like, y'all can't just stay present and move forward as we are right now. And we are in like day 4 of the off season, and we have everything all lined up in the order. We'll get to it. An expansion draft list to protect players is 2 years away, and these jokers are here. Let's just stay present. Let's enjoy the present moment, the journey, because the journey is the fun. And the journey starts with this tomorrow. This and this is going to be the focus starting tomorrow. And well, the offseason for the Raptors, we'll keep tabs on all the important news and notes. We'll talk about all the moves and draft picks. So everything within its right time. As Bobby said yesterday, we've got another year of RJ at least. So let's hope there's another year after that. Let's just say that. Let's, all in its own order. One of Jakob or IQ. That's my feeling. Well, once again, I'm not singling out anybody. And once again, we're going to try and do this with the RFF. Let's stop. I know I did it with Brandon just like a month ago, but I feel bad about it. Like I feel like I shouldn't have been throwing Brandon's name out as a trade. And I want to stop doing this, man. I don't want to talk about trading Yak, IQ, or RJ. Just stop, okay? Other places are going to do it so much in other places. If this can be a safe haven, this channel, for positive Raptors fans who don't really enjoy the idea of trading our players because we like our players. And honestly, the overwhelming sentiment this week was from the players, from Darko, and from Bobby that this group wants to stick together and that this group sees promise and growth and development with just this group. Like they asked Scotty straight up, do you think this group itself can go to the highest levels itself? Yeah. He said, I believe in them. I believe in us. We got dogs. And we could do this without like everybody making major changes to the roster. Shed said, yeah, lock these guys in. I want to play with these guys for years to come. I'd love to have all these guys on my team forever, And Webster, he made all the intimations that it's like this team was very successful this year. This core has a lot of promise and growth in it. And I don't know how much we're going to be switching it up to a degree. I mean, he's going to do everything in his due diligence as far as exploring trades, free agency, and the draft. But also at the same time, he doesn't really want to get rid of the identity of this team and what they've built already to just like make sweeping changes. And as far as I'm concerned, just like Yak said, just like Scotty said, just like Shed said, just like Darko said, I'd like to have this team back next year. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Bobby will tweak it. Bobby will add little things here. There may be some changes. The things with Sandro may not work out the right way. And he may need to get somebody in the place of Sandro all of a sudden. So, Bobby is very pleased with this year. He's very happy with Darko. He said Darko did a great job. And honestly, the plans for what they've been doing with this rebuild since they hired Darko have all been going according to plan. And the timeline is right on time. And the leap from 30 wins to 16 more wins with 46 and a first round 7-game series with Cleveland, this was all on target for the growth and what we're supposed to be doing. So in that way, that's enough information right there to tell Raptors Nation, why the fuck do y'all want to do wholesale changes this summer? And why the fuck do you have the trade machine out? And you're trying to trade all of our guys out. When Scotty says, I love Yak and I want to play next to Yak. We need Yak. I need Yak. You guys understand? I need Yak. I thought Yak did great. I thought Yak was amazing in this series. And y'all don't think so. Do you think you're more qualified to understand what Yak did than Scotty Barnes? No, because that man's out there sweating next to him and running around and utilizing his teammate for what he needs. And that's, once again, I'll say this. All the disrespect about Yak is unfounded and stupid because you are not Scotty Barnes. And Scotty Barnes understands what Jakob Poeltl does for this team and what he does for him. Once again, Bobby said recency bias. Y'all forget how good Yak can be when he's at his full potential. And in some ways, you guys want to, instead of mending a toy, maybe this is just society and it's bullshit and how it's conditioned everybody. If you get an iPad and it breaks, you throw it out. You don't go get it repaired. You don't fix it. Disposable consumer industry and society. Oh, everything's disposable. Tinder dates are disposable. And all the little gadgets they sell to me that have planned obsolescence, they're all disposable. Well, Yak's got a bad back. He's disposable. That's bullshit. He's a human being. And honestly, He's going to do everything in his power to strengthen his back next year and come back and have a healthy season and a very good season. And it's going to make a lot of y'all eat your words. And Scotty Barnes will be smiling and happy because his rebounding buddy is going to be right next to him. I mean, how can we have such a wide gulf between Scotty's assessment of what Yak did in this playoff series and these jabroni fans that are out there torching and flaming Jakob on social media? How can we have such a wide gulf in reality? Well, who lives in the reality of the Raptors? Scotty Barnes does. And none of you jokers at home is what I would say to that. That's right. That's right. That's right. Neil's saying this. JV was trying to go back to Europe before the Nuggets got him. This is no surprise. If JV retired because only the thought of playing with Jokic kept him there, I don't think it's because of Jokic. It's because of the contract. He had a $10 million payout for this year, and he was under contract. It's a contract. It's binding. And he had to fulfill his obligation on his contract. That's the only reason why. It's not necessarily that he got to play with Jokic. No, that's a bonus on the side. It's because he was forced to, because that's his contract. And he was legally binded to do it. That's it right there. Infamous is here. Salute, freaks. And Lex, his answers about RJ were very telling. Didn't like it at all. Well, listen, he can't, it's in some ways I'm looking into it, but he was, it's tough to really gauge. In some ways, he has to play GM and he has to kind of like hold his cards tight to his chest. RJ's not. RJ's got his cards right out in front, showing everybody what his cards are. But Bobby's still holding them close. And in some ways, this is negotiation ploys and just general GM behavior. In some ways, it wasn't an aberration from that. It was just normal. But we'd all love a ringing endorsement, just like what RJ gave from his side, from Bobby Webster. We didn't get that exactly. But once again, I think that this is it. It's like in some ways, we got to know that there's a hidden track of development that they're charting about RJ. And, when we traded to get him from New York, we had different things that we told him he needed to work on. And things like defense and efficiency were top 2 on the list. And, well, RJ's done his part. That's what I would say. He's increased his ability on defense, and he has been way more efficient, especially this year. So he's doing his part in this whole thing. So from within, if he knows what he needs to hit for targets to stick around and be a Raptor, he's going to do everything in his power to do that. And then it'll be on Bobby and Darko to assess, and they'll say, yeah, he did what we asked him. And in some ways, we need to reward that. That's the way it should work. If it's a fair world, we'll just have to see if it's a fair world. That's the whole thing. There's other things that could be involved in this, like decisions by Pelly and Rogers above Bobby that may have to do with RJ. And we and it may not even be Bobby's decision to make, unfortunately. Hopefully, Bobby does get to make all the basketball decisions. But, I'll bet you Bobby, he likes the fans to be happy. He likes to have fan favorites stick around. I believe that, because there is an inherent economic boost to having a fan favorite on your team, along with the very exciting energy about it. So I think that the way I assess it is, in some ways, even with the tells from Bobby, he can't be sure. He can't say it for sure. And in some ways, it's a tough question right now because it's obscured what will happen. He probably in his heart and in his mind, he won't tell us because he can't. He wants RJ to stay too. I'll bet you. This is interesting. Bobby talked about how they brought up Garrett Temple, and they asked, what about Garrett Temple as a leader on this team and being on this team next year? And Bobby was very forthright about that. He said, it's kind of fun to have a guy on the team that's the same age as me. Because that's true. Garrett Temple and Bobby Webster are the same age just about. And that's kind of mind-blowing in itself. But, he said he said, if things can work out, we'd love to have Garrett back next year. So there's already a sign there that Bobby is going to try and make it work out for Garrett to come back. But he did also say, and this is what fans keep saying in derision of Garrett Temple being on our team, there are only 15 roster spots, and we do have to think about filling them out in the right ways. So who knows what's going to happen with Garrett Temple? I think the thing with Garrett is, once again, half of it's on him as far as he's going to work out. He's going to do his things in the offseason, and he has to assess with Father Time whether he feels like he's up to par to compete in the NBA, to be able to get NBA minutes, even if it's at the end of a game in garbage time, just directing the young players on the Raptors. You know, Garrett Temple does so much for our team, and it's not on the court. And once again, I'll say this, not all 15 players on your team are going to play. And if you have a player that doesn't have to play at all and is an extremely beneficial player for your squad and your team, you want a player like that around. And sure, you can call him a Udonis Haslem, you can call him a Kyle Lowry in Philadelphia this year, whatever you want. But that vet, that resource, that guy sitting next to him, you can see how all the players on the bench are always talking to him. That's what Bobby said yesterday. You can see how everybody looks up to Garrett, and Garrett is part of the coaching staff in some ways. And he is absolutely a mentor and a very, very good influence on people like Jacoby Walter. So there's a lot of value in retaining Garrett. And if Raptors fans do this annual thing where they're like, why did we sign Garrett Temple again? I mean, listen to the Raptors Freak channel. You'll know exactly why. You would have known right away with the one from way back. That's right. That's right. That's right. Let's go. Fiercely saying, good morning, fam, and happy Thursday. Good morning to you, MJ. Hope you're having a great morning. And so is Fiercely Jr. Let's see. Yak at 26 million a season for the next 4 years, yo. That's not exactly right. Let me go look at it with this. Everybody inflates it in weird ways. First of all, once again, we got to say this. Once again, all the numbers are going up in the whole entire league. Once again, if we pay him a lot of money, that's not really a big deal because the numbers are up and everybody in the league's getting a lot of money. And in some ways, we're paying for the position. You know, I don't even think this is right. I mean, okay, next season he's making 20 million, okay? He starts this year, he'll make 20 million for this season coming up. He's going to make exactly the same amount of money that he made this past year. So he's not making a huge amount still. And then the year after that, 2027, 2028, he will make 27 million in that year. Now, this is the thing. Once again, see, and I'll say this. Somebody mentioned this and was Logical Raptors fanatic. There's really kind of a couple of options with Pirtle, depending on his health, you know, and maybe some people wouldn't want to do this, but maybe somebody would. This is the whole thing. That's a big contract piece in some ways. And if you fit it with another player that's a headache for another team, you can trade him for a huge chunk of money on the other side. And somebody may want to either have him on the team and cut him and have the expiring contract, or, you know, they just want the cap room. So there is some flexibility and some freedom with Jakob's contract that's very interesting that people aren't talking about. They only talk about all the negative aspects about it. But they don't understand what Mike understands, Logical Raptors fanatic. And he's saying basically that Jakob's contract will be very tradable in the future because some teams will want to salary dump. And this may be a very easy way to dump a huge amount of money. So once again, let's not look at the numbers. The NBA's already been ridiculous for the pay for everybody in different places. There's probably about 12 or 15 guys other than Yak that you could go look at, and their contracts are much more asinine and crazy. Seriously. There's probably guys that they should be pointing at and way more, but it's because he's a Raptor, because he's on our team. They talk about him more. And we got to understand that none of this press around us is positive. Have you noticed that? Everything they talk about with the Raptors is negative, and everything they talk about with the Lakers and the Knicks is positive. So remember that. They taint everything they say about us with a negative light. And that's what's training Raptors fans to be so down on front office, coach, or any of the moves we make. Because the ESPN people tell them, oh, you should be upset about this. You should be not liking this. And then Raptors fans don't think for themselves, and they just think what the U.S. media tells them what to think. All right, Neil, what's going on this morning?
What's up, big buddy Lex?
Yeah, what's up, man? What's going on? You want to talk about tempo? Look at that hat. Look at that hat. That's awesome.
Tempo. I gotta get some. I gotta get some of the merch, man.
Yeah.
Oh man. But let me just say, okay, for this Jakob thing, people are very singular in their observation.
Yeah.
And what I mean about that is when you're only talking about Yak's salary, you're not taking into consideration what everybody else's salary is.
Yeah.
He's the main center. Okay, he hasn't been up to snuff, but you got to understand something. CMB is not our main center.
No, and he never will be. And they think that they can replace Yak with CMB. You can't do that.
no, but you see, even if you have him there, you got to look at CMB is under a rookie contract throughout Yak's contract.
Okay.
There's not a problem. Now, if you go and get a center in the draft, that center will still be on a rookie contract while Yak is here. So you got to look at it from a standpoint of not just, oh, this guy's getting big money. What is your coverage amongst the team throughout that term? You got to look at it that way, because these guys who are like CMB and any new center coming in, they will learn with Jakob being there. So Jakob is the insurance policy for growing up the next generation, is what I'm trying to get at.
I get what you're saying. You've kind of been pushing this a couple days now. I get what you're saying. The whole thing to me is I don't really look at it that way, because in some ways on the NBA in the rosters, you know, sometimes they keep in mind players off each other. Like maybe when we let go of Davion Mitchell because Shed was showing up so all of a sudden. But most of the time when GMs like Bobby are looking at the team, they aren't factoring in like covering holes and having it like in that mindset that you just described.
And that's the problem.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's a problem.
Because you brought up a good example. That's one thing I want to say is you brought up a good example with the Davion Mitchell thing. But when you look at it, the depth was short because we went into the playoffs and we lost our main point guard, and all we had was a backup.
All right. You're bringing up too many. All right. First of all,
what I'm saying.
Hang on. You're driving me crazy because you're bringing up like 4 different subjects in one little thing. Let's just stay on one topic. Let's not talk about Davion and Shed. That was just
that was your example.
That was just an example. That's an example. My whole point is basically like, and I wasn't finished. Basically, what I'm saying is Bobby looks at everybody individually and deals with them individually. In some ways, interplay between this or this is not necessarily what you're thinking about all the time as a GM. And I don't think most of the GMs in the league, if any of them, think this way, where they have people tethered to each other and they're thinking this plan with this, because they can't do this. Because the NBA is anarchy. The NBA, you can't plan on anything. You can have an injury and it throws all your plans out the window. You could have weird stuff with a player where there's something weird going on with them in their life, and all of a sudden, you know, you can't plan like this. You just can't plan like this.
That doesn't mean they don't have a succession plan. Usually you have what is called projects.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. But I mean, tethering this whole idea that the contracts, the way they interlay as far as Jakob and his money and CMB on his rookie contract, in some ways, that's not necessarily a thing, or even kind of, I would say it's just that they're not necessarily intertwined or actually connected. Is what I
wouldn't say it is connected. What I'm saying is that you don't have as dire of a situation as you think you have by saying this guy's making so much. You got to look at your entire team and look at it from that perspective. He's the only center there because I'm being.
He's our only center.
Because Mamu to me is not 100%.
He's not a center. He's a stretch 5. And they said in the interview this week, Darko said ideally I'd like to play him at 4 or 3. He did say that.
And remember, I talked to you.
Yeah, you did say that. You did.
More adventurous to him.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm a person who thinks of set people up for success.
Yeah.
That's the mindset that I go from.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm also looking at it from the mindset of Jakob's term, from him being the biggest big we have. It's fine because of the guys who we have in rookies, their contracts won't be fulfilled until his is almost
the thing to me. And once again, I'm saying we just need to stay present and we need to react to the current, like, things are going to happen. Projecting like a year or 2 from now, like next summer or 2 summers from now is ridiculous because so many things can change. So many things can change. Now,
Right.
one thing I
Right.
would
But
say about Pirtle, and I'm not totally sure what the main point of what you're calling me about today is,
mhm,
but I would say this about Pirtle. Once again, he is the only true center on our team, and in
correct.
some ways, that is absolutely essential. And and look, we've tried to have projects come up, and the
Mhm.
fitness to play panel has stolen both of them. Those were both center projects that were coming up from Cameroon. And hopefully Shamshay can still circle back and be a part of the Raptors organization when he's cleared. But we don't really have a true center project coming up underneath Yak right now.
Well, you have your temporary center, which is CMB,
He's not a
right?
true
But
center. And
true, I
ideally
agree with you there.
we don't want to play him at center long term because
I
first
agree
of
with
all
you there.
that
I agree
that
with you there.
that will welcome unwanted injuries because he's playing against guys that are in some ways, and we saw in this playoff that he couldn't guard Jared Allen's little shot over him because he was too short.
Yeah, but again, there's still time, and what all I'm getting at is there's still time for this team to continue to grow. They can easily draft a center, but
I don't think they will though. I think that they'll acquire a center through a trade or free agency.
We got to. It might be that center is still not ready, and you still have Yak there as one of the main centers right now until those guys are ready, because time is everything right now. And with Yak, you got something like 4 or 5 years there.
I don't know
whatever's going on.
I don't know. That contract has 4 more years on it, but in some ways, like we'll just have to see how things go. Like let's say this
I'm not
best
worried
case
about it.
scenario: Jakob Poeltl does the job this summer that they asked him to. He strengthens his back, and he comes back, and he has a healthy, very productive year next year. And everybody's short-term memory recency bias is, "Oh, wow, Yak is amazing." And I'm so glad we didn't just toss him away after last year when everybody said we should. That could be the redemption arc that comes up very soon. But that's the thing. I'm like, we need a life preserver on this boat if it goes down. And that's why I say Jakob is so essential. And Scotty says it too. Is because if you don't have that true center, well, who's going to be playing the true centers on the other side at times? It's going to be Scotty. And we don't want Scotty to have to battle Jokic and Embiid and Cat and all these other guys all the time.
No, it's for short minutes.
Yeah. And even you go even shorter when you try and put Murray-Boyles on them. And then what is it? The other options are Mobo and Mamu off the bench. No, we need to keep our only true center on our team at least until we get another true center on the roster. At least, if not, the Cool Cat thing that we've been crying out for. Our wish list is to have 2 or 3 true centers on our roster.
Absolutely.
But we still haven't done that. I mean, we shorted up a bit with a stretch 5 and Mamu, and I wanted to fudge and say, no, Mamu's a 5. Mamu's 5. But you're right, Neil. I'll concede that you're right. He's not a true 5, but he may be the second closest thing to a true 5 on our team after Poeltl.
He's a Band-Aid situation, which is like what we've been doing in many of our roles and positions is a Band-Aid. But ideally, yes, you do want a true center in that position.
Yeah.
Like again, we have up to 18 players on this team. Yep. That's counting the 2 ways, right?
Yeah.
So it really comes down to role definition and good depth within here. And that's all I'm getting at is good depth. Right. But I'm also saying it is not as bad as we think it is.
No, it isn't.
Because what I'm saying is you got these other guys in here that are band-aiding the situation until you can rectify it.
Right. And that's hopefully that's something Bobby does this summer is like, and gets a little bit more depth at that position so that we're a little bit more solid. And even to your point that you snuck in there too, possibly, I've never thought that we have a depth problem at point guard. I really don't. I know that you said that about this playoffs with IQ being out. But once again, Scotty Barnes, this is a stat. He had the highest assist average in Raptors playoff history from this playoff series.
Right.
He had like 8.6 assists per game.
It's still band-aiding a situation. It's not something you want for him long term.
Yeah, but listen, if Scotty's evolving, and they're saying, they kept asking all week, do you think Scotty can do this aggressiveness on offense and defense all 82 games this season? Can he? And Shed said, if anybody can do it in the league, he can. I don't doubt him.
He can't. We saw the result.
Well, no, he might be able to. That's the next level for Scott. is to be a consistent winning top level player where he can play at the same. Don't just dismiss me in the middle of my point, Neil. Let me fucking finish it. All right.
All right. Go for it.
Let me finish it. Scotty was able to transition from, as he put it in his own words, a guy who plays all out aggressively on defense for the whole season this year, because that's not deniable. He played all out on defense this whole year. And then in the postseason, when Brandon got hurt, he had to do this to help the team to carry. Is he switched that aggressiveness also fully on the other side of the ball too, offensively. Now, the big question in press all week was, is he able to do this for the whole season next year, where he can go aggressive on offense like this? Because he kind of opened the door in this playoff series to this. And now part of that whole thing is the side mission is being the playmaker in the middle of this also. And that Darko's idea of what he is, as he says he's 58% towards it, could be a package of all-out aggression on offensive end, all-out aggression on defensive end, and in the middle, he is playmaking, and he's still getting a whole bunch of assists too. And don't think that he can't do all that, seriously, because that's his goal. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to finish that point, because like that triumvirate of 3 things that he could do, that's amazing if he can do it.
82 games. We're not even talking about the playoff. You have to. It's a marathon. It's never a short race.
Yeah.
Right. This is why I say it's not a good idea.
Well, right? I would say this.
The bottom ideal is you need your players. Yeah. Because it's 15 players on the roster.
I get that.
So we need everybody to contribute, because it's a better product.
The balance is always best.
Outcome
for sure.
For everybody, right?
For sure. When I say this, I don't mean like every single 82 games he's going to do it exactly that way.
But you got to understand that when you
what I mean is this.
That is what most people are saying.
What I mean is this. Scotty understands the NBA game more and more every year that he plays in it. And he understands the amount of what he needs to do to help the team to win. And this is how he's orienting his whole brain. Is like, what do I have to do to help them win? That's all I care about. What do I have to do next? And it may very well be in the 82 game schedule, there's a Brooklyn game where he doesn't have to do jack shit and everybody else can do all the heavy lifting. It's just about being the quality control for us to get to the W, and him realizing which nights where he may have to put on a couple of different hats like me and put that defensive and offensive hat in that particular game, because we need the scoring in this game also. But there may be an opponent that he plays next that is not as good as the last opponent, and he can kind of take a more of a rest game, and other guys can step up and do more in that game. Does that make sense? It's not that he's going to do this consistently the whole year. It's that he's going to practice it a lot throughout the year.
Okay,
as
that
needed.
Makes sense in the sense of what you're saying, because remember, my original argument is that most people who have been talking, they've been singular in their mindset. What you've just explained is not a singular thought. Right? Yeah. But what I'm showing you is that the people who have been complaining are very singular in the way that they're thinking. That's why they go after a Jakob. That's why they go after a RJ. That's why they even go after a Scotty, because they keep on going with a very finite, defined thought that it has to be this way specifically.
I still feel
not flexible.
They're reading stuff like Zach Lowe, The Athletic, ESPN, and they're just parroting talking parts that other people say.
I really think it's the nature that they come from.
Right? No, I know. It's their nature, but where do they get the ideas? That's what I'm saying.
I would say that a lot of it is they're talking amongst themselves. It's this Reddit.
They watch ESPN. They listen to ESPN radio.
ESPN is only the market stuff. So the stuff that they're doing,
I know, but they're marketing propaganda. They're marketing perception of all the NBA teams in the ways that they want to. And one of the big things they did, and this was the first thing, like a good example is Zach Lowe immediately after Masai's hired by Dallas. Oh, he's going to poach a bunch of the front office from Toronto. And he put that out. That's a negative connotation. What does that do? That makes Raptors fans worried that we're going to lose executives, because that makes Raptors fans worried because we're going to lose executives. He's gaslighting us. Because what did Bobby say? Hang on. What did Bobby say at the end of the interview when yesterday when they asked him, are you worried about losing your front office staff, or are you going to have your front office staff next year back? And he said, I have no reason to believe that they won't be coming back. So that sounds like, is Masai going to poach Bobby's workers in the front office? Zach Lowe said that. I'm just saying, these guys gaslight us. with these kind of ideas, and then Raptors fans dwell on it, and that's where this shit comes from. I'm telling you.
You have executives from the Raptors that are on Magic, they're on Brooklyn, they're all over the league.
Yeah.
Right? It happens all the time. So for him to make that assertion, it doesn't bother me.
No, I know, but you got to understand, not you personally, but Nephew Nation and Raptors Nation, these casuals, they'll hear Zach Lowe because he's bona fide, and they'll say, oh, hell, Masai's going to steal all our good people from the office. Well, they do. That's what they do. They overreact. And that's what I'm saying. They're feeding them bullshit, and then they get dwelling on it, and that's just a little example of this. Take that and apply that to Yak's contract and all the bullshit they put out about it.
Yeah.
How many lists this year did ESPN put Yak's contract on as one of the top 10 worst contracts in this league? And honestly, they could have substituted that out for a contract on the Knicks, a contract on the Sixers, a contract on the Cavaliers. But they somehow, those teams don't have any of those contracts on the top 10 worst contracts in the list. And I would say Paul George's contract's pretty bad. I would say that there's some guys that are paid on those teams that are kind of in bad contracts, but they would not dare to put those teams on that list. That's what I'm trying to point out to you, Neil, is that they have a very pointed propaganda machine that if they even mention us, if they talk about us in a good way, they won't do that. If there's something good we do, they'll ignore it. And if there's something bad about anything or even perceiving that it's bad, they will put a spotlight on it and broadcast it. And then Raptors fans hear it and they're gaslighted into believing it. And that's why this comes about. That's what my point is there. I mean,
I'll give you that point. I'll give you that.
Because that's the thing that's annoying to me is because, first of all, what did Bobby say at the beginning of the year last year? He said, I'm so proud. We have everybody return this year. The coaching staff, coaching staff for Darko did not change at all in the 3 years he's been coaching. He has the exact same coaches. And even all the front office staff, there was nobody let go and nobody hired. It was the exact same front office last year with the transition to Rodgers in the summer last year as we had this year. And that's why Bobby said at the end, I expect my front office to just be back. It's what Zach Lowe's saying, that we're going to get poached. Or people from
even if they weren't back, trust me, they can handle it.
We'd find somebody different. We'd get good people.
I mean, like this is natural businesses, right? I don't even look at it as a Raptors situation. There is churn. There is people movement within organizations.
Sure.
It just happens. And for us to just think it doesn't, that's not normal.
Yeah.
If you know business, it happens. It's normal for people to move within organizations.
Sure.
Just is.
And if
you get new blood and you get old blood.
Somebody if Masai does take somebody, I said the joke yesterday was Azatam. If he takes Azatam, well, somebody gets promoted that's already next to him.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. This is how people move up the ladder.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Neil, do you have another point or anything you want to say?
Nah. I'm just saying, let's all not worry too much about this.
That's a good message,
contract, right? Because as I'm saying, I mean, even if the contract is high, there are other guys growing up in here that are on rookie contracts. It's not as bad as we all think it is.
This is exactly right. Because look, Josh Lundberg even came out yesterday on with an article saying, this is so funny that he said this, and I'm so happy he did. He said basically the bad financial condition of the Raptors salary cap and what Bobby has built with this is actually way overblown.
Yeah,
that's what he said. And that's Lewinberg on TSN saying that.
Right.
And I hope Raptors fans will listen to him, that all the worries and the craziness about saying Bobby's messed up our team with the salary cap, with these contracts and all this stuff.
Right.
Lewinberg's come around yesterday saying, actually, Raptors fans, a lot of the worries and the things that people are saying are way overblown. And
all you got to tell these people is go to Spotrac, understand that they show the breakdown, and that the money has to be spent regardless.
Yep.
It has to. Every NBA team is playing musical chairs with the salaries.
Yep.
It's not the Raptors. It's all of them. This is just what they do.
Yep.
There's a certain percentage that is allotted to each player.
And once again, I'll say this too. The Raptors in some ways did have to pay a little bit of a premium to get two positions that they've badly needed in the last 5 years. And that was point guard and center. And those two guys that are in those contracts partly are getting paid because honestly, how many centers have been coming down the river towards us in the stream in the NBA?
Well, you got to look at, are you willing to grow a center? It takes a lot to grow them. Because what people don't understand is 7-footers are not easy to obtain because a lot of them get injured.
They're
right?
coveted too.
Yeah.
People, and the other thing that on the down low, and I was bringing this up a couple weeks ago, is why is it that it seems like no United States American 7-foot centers want to play in Toronto?
Because the stigma.
Can you see any of them? What's the history with those guys on our team? I think almost every single center in the history of the Raptors has been international.
Yeah. Well, and also, if they are coming, they're only coming because they're trying to save their career.
Yeah, and it's like Olajuwon at the end, but even Olajuwon, he's Nigerian. So he's not even like, he played for Team USA, but like, you think about it. Think about the whole entire history. Maybe Marcus Camby, but he was a draft pick. I mean, Davis, even Antonio Davis wasn't a true center. He was a power forward center.
Right.
And so you think about, we had Rajakovic, Radojevic, sorry. We had Arujo, we had Valanciunas, we've had Pirtle. You know, we tried to get Koloko and Shamshay. You know, everybody's been international. We've never, ever gotten an American center on our Canadian team. Why is that?
Yeah.
And I don't know, Raptors fans should think about that and be like, well, maybe we should very much value having Pirtle on our team.
Exactly. Well, you're right about that too. Because, and again, I will say to people, it's not easy to bring in a center.
Yeah.
It's not easy for them to rise up. And that's why most teams are going to 6. And the 6'9" route came about because of that. Because they're looking like, you need somebody dynamic, because you can't always have a healthy center.
I think it has to do with the speed of the game too. This game sped up a lot. And you remember that was the whole period when we had Valanciunas on our team still, and it seemed like the game was leaving him behind. Like in those last couple of years at Casey. And we're all like, man, I don't even know if Jonas has a future in this league, because we saw the league changing to a speedier thing where, and that's part of the problem too, is like a lot of the old centers that would have played in the NBA, like John Koncak, they can't play in this league because they're way too slow. And that cuts the whole percentage of like how many guys can play center in the NBA is very tough, because you not only have to have that size, that height, that athleticism is
like
important
how many of them can be a Gasol?
How many of them can run up and down the court and not hurt your team concept because it's so up tempo?
Know how to defend.
Yes. These are all such important things. And how many of these guys actually walk on this earth right now?
Right. It's a big challenge. Like who is it that the guy that people were crying, and then we picked CMB.
Malawach,
right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh,
he's true project.
Not ready.
No, he is. No, listen, it was interesting. I was in one space where I saw Suns fans talking about Colin in the playoffs, and they were kind of like, man, it kind of would have been cool to get Colin Murray-Boyles instead of Common.
Exactly.
They were saying that
because Malawach is not ready, because
he's a project.
Time to grow.
Yeah, and there's also a bustability factor with Common, where he may never develop any kind of offensive skills for the NBA. Like he'll be able to block shots and rebound. Sure. He may have foul trouble too, but he may not be able to score in the NBA at any point. So, you know, that's kind of weird. The buyer's remorse of them, and them seeing CMB in the playoffs and being like them and visualizing him on those Suns instead.
Right.
So that in some ways, that's a win for the Raptors right there. And the fans who like me that wanted Common are like, well, we were wrong. I was wrong. I wanted Common.
But remember, they used to make fun of us about being 6'9", and there's a good reason why we went 6'9".
I don't know if they made fun of us. We were innovators, and we came up with that 6'9" concept, and a lot of people have copied it since. I mean, you could look at Orlando.
Magic, number one.
Yeah,
you know, number one.
For sure.
Chicago's trying to do it.
There's been different ones. It's interesting. There's overtures, Neil, and I want to ask you what you think about this, since we do somewhat an interview going the other way. There's overtures right now that the Orlando Magic are going to hire Billy Donovan to be their next head coach in Orlando. I mean, in some ways, it's an interesting idea, because Billy Donovan was the coach of the Florida Gators for so many years and very successful as a collegiate coach in that region of the United States. So it would be a big deal if they get him there to replace Mosley.
Well, what does that symbolize? If you go Billy Donovan, who just left the Bulls?
The Bulls.
and he didn't want to rebuild. So that symbolizes that if you go Billy Donovan, you can't be doing a rebuild. You have to go even deeper.
Well, that's
on
the
that
thing.
team.
Is like, look, the Bulls are changing management. In fact, they hired somebody this week,
Mhm.
and Billy. They actually asked Billy to stay. They didn't want him to
Right.
leave. He chose to leave. He actually
He does
said, "No,
not
I'm
like
out.
rebuilds.
Like I'm done with this." Because he probably was like stagnating in Chicago, and he's just
Yeah.
felt like the last few years were kind of and he's
Yeah,
like,
but
change the scenery.
he's not a rebuilding coach. He
No,
does
but
not like that.
well, look at the Magic. Are they rebuilding?
Mhm.
No, they're not. They got a young core,
Yeah.
and he has something to work with.
That's the
So
only thing that would get him over there. Because
yeah,
if they
it's
were
not
rebuilding,
official
I
yet,
don't think
but
he would
that's the
do it.
rumor I'm hearing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that rumor, and I'm just saying that if the only way they could get him is making sure that they go even deeper, because
Yeah.
he's not I don't think he has
Well,
the patience
you
for
know what
any
I
kind
think
of
it
rebuild.
is like, look, Jamal Mosley may have been a good X's and O's coach, but I don't know if he was good at managing the players. And
It could be. I
because that
think
was the big problem. There's a lot of problems in that team, like with Franz and Paulo. Paulo and Jamal did not get along. That was part of it.
yeah, I understand that, but let's look at it this way. If France doesn't get injured again, they go deeper. As soon as
I agree with that.
France goes down,
And they
they
even have a
collapse.
better season too, because he was
Yeah,
missing most of the season. So
exactly. So
yeah.
Jamal Mosley is a victim of France's injuries. That's what I'm looking at.
No, I think in some ways Jamal Mosley had already like I've had weird vibes around the Magic for like 3 years now. That
Yeah,
they haven't been totally clicking or seeing the same thing, and it may very well be it was just Banchero and Mosley the whole time that we're just not
yeah,
seeing eye to eye.
yeah.
So
Well, man, well,
because he did, Paulo
another
said straight
coach.
up to the press, he said, "My coach takes the ball out of my hands at the end of the game, doesn't let me try
Hmm.
and score to win."
Yeah, a little bit of a bailout.
All right,
You're saying
Neil.
there.
Any more
No,
last points, Blackhawk,
no, no,
please?
no, no,
And
no,
thank you
no.
for
I'll
me
leave it at
being
that. I'll
feisty.
leave it at that.
Sorry for
Yeah.
being feisty. I
Hey,
appreciate
hey,
it.
hey! It doesn't get interesting unless we're all
In
finished.
some ways, we
Right?
need some Shannon and Skip, right?
Yeah. As long as we don't dress like them.
Yeah, or like have controversies like them.
There you go. There you go. All right, man. I'm out.
All right, Blackhawk, have a fantastic rest of your Thursday. Let's go Raptors. Let's go Tempo.
Let's go Raptors.
That's
Let's go
right.
Tempo.
The future is so bright in Toronto
There
for
you go.
basketball.
There you go. Bright it up.
Brighten it up. That's right. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. We had a signing to the CEBL team yesterday. Scarborough Shooting Stars have signed Canadian Charles Bediako to the Scarborough Shooting Stars. Just a little CEBL tidbit for people if you're keeping track right there. Yeah. G's saying this. There are a bunch of bench players that they can trade to keep RJ. I do not understand some fans. Other teams want to keep as many scorers as possible. Once again, I'm telling you, people see the best parts of our team and they want him gone. And once again, it's no joke that the two guys who played in New York are centered in a lot of the rumors because New York is the media center of the NBA. It's the media center of the sports world. It's the media center of the world in some ways. And a lot of the people that make the media there are Knicks fans. And in some ways, once again, if sports media is a perception war, they are going to sully RQ and RJ in every way they can, whether it's about their contracts, whether it's about them being hurt, whether it's about this or that. And Raptors fans, you're susceptible to hear their garbage and believe in it because they are not your friends. They are not telling you advice or things about things that you should believe. Trust me. Honestly, the assessments of the New York media of the Toronto Raptors should never be taken into account as being legitimate or any kind of like anything because those people want bad things for us. They want us to fire our good people. They want us to trade our important players. And why, as a fan nation, are we taking advice from people that want bad things for us? That's what I would ask Raptors fans right now. Why would you? You should be suspicious of every single thing that ESPN says, of every single thing printed in the Athletic or the Bleacher Report. You should even be suspicious of everything that comes on Rogers Sportsnet. You should be suspicious of everything on TSN to an extent, too. TSN's the best one in a lot of ways. Bell does it the best with people like Jack Armstrong, Kia Nurse, Leo Routon, Sam Mitchell, and Josh Lewenberg. They have the most dependable, real kind of journalists, I believe, at this point, in my eyes, out there right now. You know, even Raptors Republic is susceptible to the bullshit narratives of the U.S. media, and they will echo and parrot them too. Shame on you, Samson Folk. Shame on you, man. Yeah, yeah. Let's keep going. Reggie's saying this. I think RJ is a critical piece. He has to be a part of this team. I agree with this. I completely agree with this, and I hope that Bobby does too. I hope that he does too. G's saying this. Health is wealth. Exactly. You know, you could be Donald Trump and have $4 billion, but you think that man feels good in his body? No, that man is crumbling apart like an old, destitute, abandoned building. And, they put so much makeup on his hands right now to hide this. And boy, do they talk about his cognitive decline a lot. Yeah, health is wealth. And some of the richest people in the world have some of the shittiest health. So are they really wealthy? That's right. Durability, availability, the best abilities. That's right. The best abilities. That's right. Neil saying this. Lonzo Ball is gone. Ben Simmons is gone. You have players that hang around and they are a shell of themselves because of injuries. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if Ben Simmons was actually a physical injury or a mental injury. That's the one there. I don't want to make light of mental health issues, but Ben Simmons, in some ways, he just didn't have any kind of dog in him. He didn't have no dog. I don't know what he had in him. What animal was in Ben Simmons, y'all? Was it what is that animal that runs away, hides from you if you come out in the yard? That's the animal he is. That's what he is right there. Yeah, let's see. Infamous is saying that smooth. We both agree, but the organization doesn't seem to believe that. If it was up to me, I would bring in more Canadian talent. Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I think I would appeal to Ed Rogers the third and Keith Pelly right now. Canadian players on Canadian teams is good business. In some ways, if y'all move on from Austin Matthews on the Maple Leafs because you draft a fantastic superstar at number 1 in the Maple Leafs NHL draft, make it a Canadian guy. Mitch Marner should have stuck around and this should have worked with him. In some ways, you should have doted on him because in some ways, it's like, look, once again, we see the Canadian effect in RJ in the playoffs this year, and it just is a little bit more extra. In some ways, you want to trust your players to play at their optimal best and be trying their hardest. Well, get hometown heroes, and they will do that. It's evidence in RJ and AJ Lawson in the playoffs this year. That's right. That's right. So yeah, I agree with this completely. Smooth saying it's being reported that that Darko and Bobby will be offered extensions. Yes. Bobby wouldn't talk about this yesterday about Darko's extension, but he did say he feels like Darko's done a really great job and that he proved in the playoffs that he can be an adjustment playoff winning coach. And that he cited the fact that he lost Brandon and IQ wasn't available, and that Darko made adjustments and found success with that problem. So that was big time points in the mind of the head of basketball operations for the Raptors. And yeah, it's speculated this will happen. I see it happening too. I mean, why not? This year's been extremely successful. And in some ways, these guys may not be under contract for the next year, and they need to get them locked down for next year, right? We don't want any of them going anywhere. We obviously don't want Darko going anywhere for sure. And Bobby so also. Bobby kind of let it be known, just like kind of how he looks at the world and how he looks at like the salary cap. And he reminded everyone he used to work for the NBA head office. So he understands the inner workings of this league and how to do things. Bobby is so capable. And Bobby, it was exactly the right person to put the teams in charge of the team last summer. And I appreciate Keith Pelly for doing that and not, switching him out and getting some weirdo that could have really wrecked our team, guys. So, we built a lot up with Masai still around that's going on right now. And in some ways, we didn't need a new person coming in and kind of making switches from that vision that was already laid down for years ahead of this. And that's why Bobby was essential to stay in this job. And that's why he needs the extension this summer, too. Seymour saying, yes, more maple syrup, please. G's saying, Bobby mentioned keeping all their picks and hinted at bigger trades using them. That's what I understood. Yeah. He speaks of the consolidation period, which is basically where you take a lot of your assets, whether they're players under contract or picks that you have accumulated that you still have, and you make a big move in the direction of consolidating your talent into one player, and you get a very powerful player that puts you closer to the Larry O'Brien. And that's the procedure to get towards the second championship for the Raptors. So if we see Bobby making a big consolidation trades or moves, we'll understand that we're evolving and moving into the next stage of the Raptors to compete on a higher level and deeper in the playoffs. But now that we made the playoffs this year, as RJ said, we have to get a playoff victory on the road is their next test for next year, because we didn't win a playoff game on the road yet. And, we need to progress and show hopefully a playoff round victory next year. And, as those things go on, Bobby's gauging, and that's when he's deciding on these consolidation moves or the big move like a Marc Gasol. So, yeah, this is the stuff that's important right here. This is the stuff that's important right here. And I'm glad that he's been keeping us flexible. And once again, we have a lot of room to maneuver with our first round picks and some tradable contracts and different ideas that Bobby could do when presented with different options and opportunities around the league. That's the thing. That was one of the biggest things about Masai and Bobby's philosophy in running the Raptors is come from a place of flexibility where you can move quickly in an interesting way to do stuff if the opportunity presents itself, like Kawhi Leonard being disgruntled in San Antonio. That's the whole reason why that happened, is because we had things set up a certain way so that we had flexibility to make that big move and strike a deal to get Kawhi. So that's the pattern right there. Superfan Mo's in the house. I know she was excited about Bobby's presser yesterday. It's always a tough time of the year to say goodbye to the Raptors for the summer, but the press conference are always so full of optimism and hope for the future and things that are coming up. And right now, I feel like once again, 3 years in a row of Darko. At the end of the season, there's all kinds of bright hope, and it's not like a feeling of dread or failure at the end of the year, like so many NBA franchises. I mean, you could think about the closing interviews for the Celtics, the closing interviews for the Nuggets, the closing interviews for the Magic. Yeah, all not good. Very bad aura, very bad vibes. But the Raptors closing interviews for the season, very positive, very bright outlook. That's the difference right there. Most saying, good morning, Raptor Freak crew. And Bobby we trust, Mamu and Grady were the eye opener for me. Yeah, he's very candid about this. Bobby said exactly what Grady needs to do to stay a Raptor. And well, we hope that things line up and make Mamu a Raptor next season. But Bobby, Bobby was very clear. He is going to try and work to get Mamu back on this team. He's very, very clear about that. He's very, very clear. We'll see if it's realistic according to what the offers are from the other NBA teams, though. And that could be the thing that throws it off. And all of a sudden, you're looking at another Bismack Biyombo. 1 year with the Raptors, did a fantastic job, earned a big contract, and went somewhere else. And sadly, that could be very likely what happens this summer. But Mamu wants to come back, and Bobby wants him back too. So that at least shows there. But some of it's not totally up to them. Some of it's not totally up to them. G's saying this, RJ is not only just a good player, he's the heart, and his love for Toronto is contagious. If they trade him, we'll be looking at Bobby with side eyes. Yeah, I don't think he will. Even actually, we could say this is a tell. It sounds like Bobby's not going to trade him in the middle of the season next year. And now people that hate that, RJ people that want him traded are going to be like, well, you're going to have another Fred, where he's going to come around to the summer and he'll just sign with somebody else and go somewhere else. Is that what that sounds like, what RJ's going to do with what he said on Monday? No, Fred may have went for $45 million from the Rockets, but I don't think RJ's trying to get the big cash out and go somewhere else and leave us high and dry. So I'll bet you Bobby, in some ways they could make a deal ahead of time, like on the download. They probably won't, and they probably won't talk about it. In some ways, it'll be how Webster motivates RJ to be at the highest level this year again. Is like, go earn it, RJ. Be a badass. Do everything you need to do as a player to make this the hardest decision for me. And, he did say we have him for the whole year next year. That was a tell by Bobby. That means he's maybe not going to be trying to ship him at the trade deadline. And I still don't believe all this crap about him trying to trade Yak this past year at the trade deadline. Grange has this report out, and Raptors fans are just falling all over it, saying he failed at trying to trade him for Jaren Jackson Jr. and all this kind of bullshit. Well, even if that's true, you know what? It didn't happen. So get over yourselves. And Grange, fuck you for posting all that shit and putting that out there at this point. It's not helpful. And this is part of the toxic media shit that I'm talking about. So, in some ways, once again, we got to remember Jakob was seeing a mental health specialist this season, dealing with his injury, not knowing when he could be back. And then we've also got the fan nation being absolute assholes to him. Like, we should be better fans. Seriously. Our player is hurt and he's not able to play so well, to support him and root for him in those ways. But y'all just look at him as a commodity. You don't look at it as a human being. And you only care about what he can do for you and your team. Fuck you guys. Jakob Poeltl is a loyal person to the Raptors, and he's somebody that's trying his darndest to be out there for Scotty and the rest of the team to help them with the rebounds and do what he does. So, yeah, in some ways it sucks because these are guys that are absolutely loyal to our team. And I think that's part of it, is that other teams' fans see the loyalty of Yak, the loyalty of Emmanuel and Yak and RJ, and they want to come in and mess it up and say, you guys need to trade them. You need to trade them. They did the same shit with Siakam when Siakam confessed that he wanted to be a Raptor for life, or DeRozan, or people like that. All these negative people with opinions come out of the woodworks on social media, and they just keep their voices out there. I'm telling you, it's not totally organic from us. It's not. But some of y'all listen to these points and think, yeah, that makes sense. And then you'll get on board with it. Fuck y'all. Don't be so soft-headed. Stand with your team, stand by your players, and stop trying to trade them out of the city. It's up to Bobby on whether these things are going to happen when these triggers get pulled. And you guys just making extraneous noise around the whole thing. Well, in some ways, you show that you don't really support the guys in the right kind of way, because this is a mental thing along with a physical thing, being on the court and playing for the Raptors. And you want to think that the players are behind you and love you. But when God forbid, Jakob Poeltl goes on Reddit or some other social media site and sees all the bullshit y'all are saying. Seriously, I hope he never does. Because I'm ashamed of Raptors Nation sometimes with their venom and their bullshit that they say. Remember, these are human beings once again. You see them on TV, then you think of them as like trade people, or I made a sports bet on this guy and this, you dehumanize them. And you got to understand, these are people with feelings, and they feel pain, and they're busting their ass and bleeding and blood, sweat, and tears for us to entertain us and help our team win. So let's keep this all in perspective, is what I'm saying here right now. Yeah. Let's see. G saying, oh yeah, I already read that. G saying this. Temi was at the Giants of Africa event too. That's awesome. Of course she was. This is a big deal for, they're going to have certain kinds of players on the tempo, to like a Canadian, a woman from Africa is great for things like Giants of Africa and stuff. Having those kind of representatives is really good. Like Aaliyah Nye. Aaliyah Nye is an Indigenous woman. And when we do Indigenous events in Canada for Indigenous youth, like basketball camps out west, Aaliyah Nye can be a very good role model for young Indigenous children for wanting to play basketball. So, these kind of things are important, just like RJ, Kia Nurse, Temi Fagbenle. These are all important kind of connections in these ways. Yeah. Let's see. Infamous is saying Scotty was the best player in the playoffs, but you can make that argument that RJ was the most consistent. Yeah. A lot of people come around and said this. Cavs fan came into Reddit, Raptors Reddit, and said, I believe Scotty was the best player in this series. And wow, he's amazing. And you guys have an amazing player there. That's Cavs fan who maybe like a couple of years ago was like so anti-Scotty and mad because he got Rookie of the Year over Evan Mobley. And they come around and now they're showing appreciation and like, wow, your dude is badass. Watching Barnes in the first round, he was better than Mitchell and Harden. And a lot of people believe that, even though we lost in the 7 games. Scotty Barnes was the best player in our playoff series. And Cavs fans are even saying that. RJ was the most consistent. I'm going to do the stars of the game totaling up maybe today. And for Sunday special report, we're going to go over my star report for the whole entire season. all the way back to Summer League. I'm going to add up all the stars of the game for the whole season, the postseason, the preseason, the Summer League, and the regular season. And we're going to see the totals of the rankings of the stars of the Raptors and who was the number one star. I'll bet you it's Scotty. I'll bet you Scotty's number one star, but it'll be interesting to see who's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as far as the starters of the Raptors, right? Blackhawk saying Ujiri is the president of operations, whisperer. You mean like because he got all these people that are in big jobs now? Yeah, it's kind of a cool thing, man. Josh Monroe's here. Good to see Josh Monroe. By the trade deadline next year, a major move could be done. The starting lineup just isn't strong enough to make it comfortably in the playoffs. They have to get depth pieces somehow so they can compete. I think that it's hard for us to assess this, Josh, just because two of our starters didn't really play in this series. You know, Brandon, even though he played the first couple games and got hurt in the third game, was he really effective or really playing this series? No. It really was Scotty and RJ were the 1-2 punch for us, and we didn't have Emmanuel either. So it's really kind of hard to say that like the starting lineup just isn't strong enough because we really didn't have it. So I think that they deserve the chance to try and do things together in health next year. Hopefully, God willing, they will be healthy and we'll see all 5 of them on the court together. But I definitely agree with your point about shoring up the backups. And I think that that's what Bobby kind of said. You know, he said something very interesting yesterday. He said there's 2 philosophies on how I can do this. And he was very open about this. This is really interesting. He said, I obviously our team is built on Darko's defensive concepts of being very harassing and very frenetic and energetic and just getting a lot of turnovers and running back. He says that we could go 2 ways. We could double down on that defensive energy and get more defensive energy and try and just make up the offense on the other side. Or we could try and help the offensive side of things by making acquisitions for offensive weaponry, like 3-point shooters and a vet or something like that. Now, the interesting thing he said, though, was the problem with going in the offensive direction with putting more offense on the team this summer is you may make the top 5 defense suffer, and that he wants to keep that. That's the most important priority because this is what Darko's philosophy and demands of the Raptors are, that they have to play this way is non-negotiable. And so Bobby's respecting Darko's philosophies of the defensive end and building the team. And that's why we got people like Murray-Boyles and Barnes on our team. But what does he do? Does he get more doubling down on defense this summer? Or does he try and help with the offense? I think that our offense was so bad at times and stagnated, and we just seemed like we had so much struggle making baskets at times that he needs to not try and double down on defense. He needs to trust the defensive foundation with a lot of the young core we have right now and look for more offensive weapons. That's what I think he should do. So we'll see. All right, let's see. We got a caller on the air. Hang on. Caller, you're on the Raptor Freak Show. How are you today?
I'm good. Who's this?
This is the Raptor Freak. How are you today?
Very good.
Yeah.
Who's this?
It's Raptor Freak.
Raptor Freak.
Yeah, you like the Raptors?
No, but my husband does.
Oh, they're good. Did you see RJ hit the Game 6 shot last week?
No, I don't watch. Sorry.
You didn't see RJ Barrett hit the Game 6 winner, the high bounce?
No, sorry.
Did he see it?
I think you have the wrong number.
No, you called me.
No, I got a missed call from this number, and I just.
No, I didn't. I don't think I tried to call you. Are you sure that?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Either way, thank you for appearing on the Raptor Freak call-in show.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Go Raptors.
Go.
Bye. She like Raptors now. That was weird. Was that interesting? If you call my number and it's between 9 and 11, you're going to be on the air. All right, let's keep going. So we say this. Dallas does have one guy I'm very interested in. Mavs don't have draft capital. The Raptors do. Maybe a very big trade could be in the works. I joked about it yesterday, but there could be something to it. Reggie, I was thinking about this too. Even though Bobby said Masai and I like the same guys, and that may be hard to trade with each other, I did say this also that the Mavs team may have some malcontents, Irving, and may have a glut of big players that they could maybe finagle with us, and maybe we have a player over on our team that they would be interested in having that fit with them that works well. So there is a possibility of a Ujiri Webster trade between Dallas and Toronto, which is beneficial to both teams. If we can make a trade with James Dolan's team in the middle of a lawsuit, like the OG RJ IQ trade, we can make a trade with Masai and Dallas in this kind of way. And you got to think about, what are the possibilities? Well, Irving is definitely somebody that is definitely on the trading block in Dallas. And I know they won't publicly say that, but it's true. And who knows? Maybe there's a big guy on that team that they're willing to part with from their roster. That it could very well be that Masai's like, yeah, I don't really want this guy on this team for some reason, because I don't really feel like he's a part of the future. But maybe I see if Bobby's interested because he is a center, and we need a center in Toronto. That kind of stuff could happen. So there may very well be a symbiotic trade between Dallas and Toronto, which helps both teams immensely, because they have extra of this and we have extra of this, and they want a little of this and we want a little of that. Does that make sense? It does to me. It does to me. Neil's saying what's going to happen is the NFL is going to see the Ujiri effect, and they will try to emulate Ujiri in their organization. That's interesting. I think that I don't know how you emulate Ujiri. Like, he's one of one. I think that, in some ways, to think that you can just bottle up what Masai Ujiri is and just make it into somebody else. Yeah, you can't do that. It's in some ways, it's this unique human design. I'll bring that up again. Masai Ujiri's chart is probably very interesting. He has extreme charisma, and he has vision, and he's a very level-headed, strong thinker, and a very critical thinker. And in some ways, he holds a high standard for himself in his life, but also for the people in his organization that are going to work with him. So I don't know, man. In some ways, I say he's one of one. That's why even Bobby, he can understand how Masai would do things, but he'll never be the charismatic speaker that Masai Ujiri is, right? We're going to miss those locker room pep talks for our players, and the Mavericks will get them now. I hope they don't fall on deaf ears and people don't like, yeah, this guy's crazy, I don't like him. They better respect him, and they better listen to him, Cooper Flag, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, I don't see this. You can't replicate Masai. There's only one. There's only one. Trust me. If they could have replicated him, people in this league would have done it in the last 10 years, a long time ago, if you really think about it. That's right. Seymour's saying, who's the one? Smooth Brown Man. Who's the one? Who's the one? Dallas has one guy I'm very interested. I think it's Kyrie Irving. That's right. He said Kyrie Irving right there. Now, I don't like talking about trading Emmanuel, but obviously, if this is going to happen, Emmanuel quickly might be playing with Cooper Flag if Kyrie Irving's coming here. But Kyrie has to be bought in, and he has to be playing at the highest level, and he has to want to be playing, and he has to be healthy too. That's the only way I do this. And I don't want no repeat of Kawhi Leonard, where we're trading a guy who's loyal and loved, like IQ, who's wearing Maple Leafs on his shoes, for a guy who comes up here, doesn't respect it, hangs out for the contract, and gets the hell out as soon as he can. So we would want to have assurances that Kyrie Irving would be more a long-term than a short-term thing if I'm doing anything in that kind of direction. That's what I would say. Randolph's here. Blessings, beloved Raptor Freaks fam. You've got questions. God's got the answers. The ways and means to bring things to reality. He specialized in doing the impossible. You know what's one of the most amazing things to me is nature. Because nature is God's creation, right? And inherently, nature is right. Some people get mad when they see dandelions in their yard. Why do we have dandelions? Those little yellow flowers and the little things afterwards that spread all over the place. You know why you have dandelions? It's because your soil in your yard is compacted and it's not healthy. The dandelion shows up because nature and God is so smart to fix your soil. And the other great thing about dandelions is that's not a weed, that's food. You can make so much out of dandelions. One of the big things about society is they don't want us to have autonomy for ourselves. And the more we have to pay for subscriptions, pay for groceries, pay for services, pay for all this stuff, they don't want us to know how much we can be self-sufficient. Yesterday I was walking around my yard and I saw this leafy plant that's all over the place. I'm like, what is this? And I looked it up, and it's called creeping bellflower. Creeping bellflower is an invasive, and most people will get mad at you if you have it in your yard because it'll spread around. But they don't tell you that it's edible and that you could actually literally be growing a salad in your yard that proliferates like crazy, and you could eat from that. In some ways, the label of invasive to me, who makes that idea of that? Well, something that wasn't naturally here. But you know what? Things change. Terrain changes. People immigrate, people come here, animals get on board, and they come across to Australia, and all of a sudden you got a new animal there. People say, well, that's destructive to the native habitat. But who's to say what the native habitat was supposed to be? And that these natural changes in the nature are supposed to happen. Because do we say that God makes mistakes? No. God plants and grows plants where they are for a reason. And it's just our own egos as humans to say that's invasive or that shouldn't be there or it shouldn't be like that. And part of it's also the capitalist mindset that if more people knew how much stuff grows in their yard that could feed them, we wouldn't have as many people buying stuff at the grocery store. So don't believe this shit. And the whole idea of a dandelion in your yard, that's a blessing because it's fixing your soil. And it is something you can make into tea. You could eat it. You could actually get some substance from it. And they also condition you to think, oh, anybody who's eating weeds out of their yard, they're a poor loser. And what kind of life is that? Bullshit. That's smart. That's money in your yard. They don't want you to figure this out. And they'll shame you and they'll make you feel like a loser because you're eating foraging from your yard and getting plants that grew naturally out of your yard. Oh, you must be poor or something. No, I'm thrifty and I'm smart. And I'm not paying your out of control grocery prices. That's the thing. Do some research on these weeds or these invasive plants, and you may find out the secret is actually these are very helpful plants and they're very useful. And it's just that they want control the narrative once again, and they don't want people to be able to take care of themselves. Drop the mic. There you go. Blessings to the Phillips family and all the Raptor Freak families. Just a little aside there. Maybe you learned something from what I just said. Next time you think something out there is a weed and it's the worst, go do some research on it. You might find out you could actually eat it, or it may actually be very helpful for a medicinal reason, or there's all kinds of other reasons why it's there. There's one plant that's over my septic tank, and I'm like, why is this plant all over there? I did some research. It's cleaning the toxins out of my soil. So everything that God does, there's a reason. And sometimes you'll be like, why is this plant showing up in my yard so much? You shouldn't be like mad and weeding it out and getting so upset. You should go with the flow of nature. That's the permaculture way, and learn the lesson of what God and nature is telling you, because it's there if you want to learn it. That's right. Seymour's saying that's a great fit. Kyrie, Masai, please gift us Kyrie. I don't know if it's going to be a gift. There will be. We know how he negotiates. That would be an interesting room to be in. The familiarity of Bobby and Masai sitting in a room trying to negotiate a deal. Hi, Bobby. How are you doing? Oh, hi, Masai. How are you doing today? It's so great to see you, man. It's been so long. Oh, I know, Bobby. How's the wife? How's the kids? Oh, they're great. They're great. How's your wife? How's your kids? Oh, they're fantastic. So, we're here to talk about a trade. Yeah. And I understand what you're interested in. I think it's a little steep of a price. Oh, but I won't go any lower, Bobby. And they're like strong arming each other because they're very, very strong, kind of like negotiators, and they are very tough. I mean, they're very, very tough. So that would be kind of fun to be a fly on the wall if there are any GM talks for trades between Dallas and Toronto and Bobby Webster and Masai Ujiri. It'd be kind of interesting to be in there and hear what the conversation is like. It'd probably be a mix of familiarity and jokes and remembrances of fun times, along with some very hard-nosed negotiating and tactics. It might be very interesting to see that. That's right. Seymour's saying that might be who Stargate was thinking about yesterday too. It is. I mean, what did I do last year? I tried to test the whole world of NBA rumors by starting a rumor that Kyrie Irving was going to come to Toronto. Well, it didn't go that far. I guess my voice didn't echo out far enough. I was really hoping I'd plant a little spark and it would just catch fire and then it would just go across the Raptors Nation social media world and say, Kyrie's coming here. And maybe it would happen somehow, some way. So yeah, I'm for this to an extent, but once again, it has to be that Irving wants to be a Raptor for sure. He wants to play with Scotty Barnes, and he wants to be a part of the next Raptors championship. That's what it has to be. Because if he wants to be here just for a rental or just to make the money, no, he needs to be about winning that chip if he's coming here. That's what I would say right there. That's right. Medved Ted's in the house. Good to see Medved Ted. I would love to keep RJ. I'm worried about Scott Perry, Kings GM. He'll be active in offseason trying to get him. If they decide to take on Yak's contract and RJ for Sabonis, not sure if Bobby says no. Yeah, I hate that trade. I don't think that's going to happen. You know, all the trade speculation and all the different rumors we hear, half the time, you know what that is? That's the other team's fans making wish lists and just trying to make up bullshit. The trade machine stuff isn't rampant in all fan nations. And think about every single fan nation making up trades that would benefit their team in different ways. So, I mean, any of the talk about the Jaren Jackson or Domantas Sabonis stuff in the last year, I don't believe any of that shit. Because once again, the thing that's going on with the Raptors right now is we're trying to work with this contingency, this group, this unit. And this is the group we want to try and win with right now. And switching them out, once again, fans that want to switch players out so often, you're ruining chemistry and gelling every single time you do that. So it's like, is this improving the team? No, I don't think so. Do you think Bobby's dumb enough to trade 2 starters for 1 starter? No, I don't think so. This isn't the kind of consolidation trade that he's looking to make, is what I would say. So a lot of the trade rumors that come around and stuff, I don't pay attention to any of them. If something happens in reality, we'll react to it afterwards after the shock of it. But I'm not trying to get out in front of any of these and premeditate them or think about them too heavily, because in some ways there's so much and it's so much garbage. It's not worth my brain energy, is what I'm saying. I react to what Bobby does. I don't speculate and premeditate what he does. And I can't speculate anything about Scott Perry and the Kings. His team's a mess. There's probably all kinds of different possibilities and ideas that he has. And who knows if Pirtle and RJ deal is really one of the really high ones on his list. So, yeah, we can't take any of this trade talk seriously. We shouldn't, is what I'm saying. Good Game saying Sabonis is going to make $45 million and $48 million next year. No thanks. Would rather Walker Kessler for cheaper and his 10 rebounds per game and 2.4 blocks per game. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is the difference between Sabonis and Jakob that different? I don't know if it is. And we got RJ too on that in that other way. So is what I would say. Trevor saying Tempo announced the launch of Tempo Foundation Basketball. Okay. Yeah, they've got a lot of different programs. They're doing like a coaches foundation where they're going to have coaches from the local community, and they are going to come around and like be a part of a group that can help youth get coached right in the Toronto community. Something like that. I think that's what it is. G saying they called LeBron a flopper. When you get to the top, you get a lot of haters in general. WNBA is notorious for this. Yeah, SGA is definitely getting that right now. And a lot of his haters come from Denver. A lot of his haters come from Houston. A lot of his haters come from LA. A lot of his haters come from San Antonio. Yeah, a lot of his haters are just from Western Conference teams. He has no hate up here in Canada. Let's just put it that way. And then a lot of the Eastern teams probably don't, like Eastern fans don't really hate SGA. I don't think they do. I don't know. I don't think they do. Shaq Lindsay saying, I know you're trying to make sense of the Masai situation, just like I was when he got fired. Let's be real. It's all about the money. Yeah. I mean, he's getting paid a big amount by Patrick. They won't divulge how much he's making on his contract, but I'm guessing it's $20 million a year. Seriously. And that family has that kind of money to do that. Yeah. I mean, that's why you do jobs, right? To get paid. And Masai is a high-level premium executive that should be paid at a high-level premium price. And I'm sure they're compensating him correctly for him to take this job. Once again, there were signals that he wasn't totally going to take this job. Even in the interview, he said that he has to get everything organized and move to Dallas because he hasn't even came there. If he really thought he was going to take this job for sure, he would have premeditated some moves in his life to be ready to be there for now. But he hasn't. So he has to do all the stuff to get caught up to be there to do this. And to me, that signals, because he also said in his interview, 2 days ago that he still wasn't totally sure about whether he was going to be involved in the NBA this season coming up at all. So it might be that Dumont, he played hardball just like I was describing. And Patrick said, "What is it going to take, Masai?" I'll tell you right now, 20 million a year. All right, 20 million a year. Maybe you got more. Maybe he's getting 25 million a year. I don't know. He made 15 from Ed. There's going to be a price bump up if he's playing down there. Trust me. Yeah, it's all about that money to a degree, but maybe even changing the culture, and not just changing the culture of the Dallas Mavericks and the franchise and turning that team around from where it's at right now after Nico Harrison, but also maybe the culture of the United States and the state of Texas and the city of Dallas. Because look, if you win and you help your team win, you become a hero and people will listen to you and respect you more. And he could have a very strong influence in a very positive way in a country that's full of fascist, totalitarian dictators right now. And in some ways, that's a whole side mission for Masai Ujiri that we may not even realize right now. G saying social media is creating toxicity. I see young kids wanting to rage bait, bully for reactions, being meaner than when I remember growing up. Negativity is becoming cool, and it's going to be a problem. There's a lot of bad stuff about this. In fact, I thought it was extreme for Canada to be suggesting a social media ban for children, but I don't think it is. They have already done it in Australia. They have a media ban, social media ban for children under 16, and nobody, because this is the thing, you're conditioning young minds. It's the same reason why you don't want kids watching porn at like 11 or 12 or 9, that kind of toxicity can shape a mind that is developing in very bad ways for the whole rest of their life. You can really screw people up. And we don't even know all the ramifications of social media completely because we're kind of all the guinea pigs since Facebook became so preeminent in 2007. And, things like the pandemic and things like that have caused trauma for kids. And they seek validation and belonging in very dark places. And one of those places is to be a troll, to be a bully, to be an asshole. And yeah, it's sad. And I don't know. I think that in some ways I'm for freedom, but I think that because of the Wild West of online and social media, that to protect the children, some sort of legislation of not allowing kids under a certain age to be on social media is maybe smart, because we've got to think about the young minds we're shaping for the future. A lot of people may disagree with me, but in some ways this does make a lot of sense considering what G just said. Some people say, no, that's very dictatorial. You shouldn't be like that. That's not freedom. Well, we put restrictions on things that are toxic for people like alcohol and cigarettes. Social media may be just as dangerous for your health as those two things I just mentioned. It's interesting. Trevor's saying Mark Cuban has joined the Brampton Honey Badgers ownership. That's right. Brampton, they moved them from Hamilton to Brampton. So they're the Honey Badgers of Brampton now. They used to be the Hamilton Honey Badgers. Mark Cuban, I guess, since he whiffed at getting his team back, the Dallas Mavericks, he wants to be involved in sports ownership somewhere. Well, he's a part owner of the Brampton Honey Badgers now in the CBL. This is a pretty cool story, actually. I wonder if this means that Mark's going to be coming up to Canada to go to Honey Badgers games this summer. That would be kind of cool to see Mark Cuban in Brampton at a CBL game. I might even have to travel over there and see if Mark Cuban's at a Honey Badgers game to go to a CBL game in that arena. This is a cool development, Trevor. And thank you for reminding me about this news, because this is definitely something that we would cover on this channel. The Infamous is saying JV sounds like he's sick of American culture. Yeah. Once again, I'm a Baltic person just like JV. Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia have a sensitivity to totalitarian dictatorship and control by government and all kinds of bad stuff. And, it's in his family from Valančiūnas being in Lithuania in the USSR, the fall of Berlin Wall. It's the same history with my family. That's why I'm very aware of these things. I'm sure Darko, in his history being Serbian, he is very aware of war-torn countries and different kinds of things with totalitarian dictatorship. And yeah, anybody could give pause about the changing developments in the United States in the last 2 years. Anybody could give pause to that stuff. And Jonas is a smart guy. And in some ways, he has options. And once again, happy wife, happy life. And I'm telling you, it's his wife that did not want to be in the United States anymore and raising their children in the United States anymore. So he retired today. He retired. That's right. Imba was saying, look forward to the Tempo game tomorrow. Hope there will be some Raptors representatives present. It'd be interesting to see how much they interact. I always wonder about how quick the Raptors will get out of town. It being uncommonly mild, colder weather in the last couple of days for this point in May is kind of annoying. I mean, we all want to start our gardens. But the Raptors, now that they're off and they were done with their obligations on Monday, I bet a bunch of them are sitting on beaches and just like the classic gone fishing Cancun inside the NBA stuff. And rightfully so. This has been a long season. They've worked very, very hard all year. And it's time for rest and relaxation, R&R time. So I wouldn't fault any of the Raptors for getting on a plane immediately and going to an island somewhere after Monday. Now, let's see if anybody's hung around still. And in some ways, you can check on all them through their social media on Facebook and different Instagram and different places to see what they're doing. But who knows? Maybe there will be a Raptors representative at the first ever Tempo game on Friday night. Maybe we'll see somebody like, I don't know, part owner Kyle Lowry. No, he's still in the playoffs right now. So he won't be able to come. I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe Masai will be there. Masai might just be in Toronto this whole week doing Giants of Africa and doing stuff to help the Tempo to start up, even though everybody in Dallas is just dying for him to get down there and get started. It could be that's what's going on right there. Let's see. Trevor's saying Tempo halftime show performance by Luke Kala for Friday's opener. Okay. I don't really cover halftime shows, but yeah. Info was saying very good point on the call. Yeah, I appreciate Neil calling. I apologize for dropping an F-bomb. In some ways, I was just like we were talking over each other, and I just wanted to finish my point. But yeah, respect to Neil, man. Neil's awesome. And I thought he had some good points in there. He did. He had some good points. KT's here. Good morning, Kareem. Yak was hurt. I wish he'd come out and just say so. That's this way he doesn't have to deal with all the scrutiny. We know what Yak can do. We know his production. We just didn't see it due to his injuries. Yeah, and Bobby said, once again, he was behind the 8 ball for the whole year. He was hurt coming into training camp, and he really never kind of got fully in his stride like he did the year before. There were signs of it. We had a couple double-double games near the end of the season. Even Brandon said this. He said that there were guys that were hurt at the beginning of the year, and they came on strong near the end of the year. And, there was we need everybody was what Brandon's main point was in his interview. The thing that I learned this year the most about the Raptors is we need everybody available and playing for us to be the most successful. And he means himself and he means IQ. And they all agreed on the plane ride back. And Brandon said they had the plane ride back playing cards. And he took Emmanuel aside. He said, we were both playing. And Emmanuel's like, yeah, I know. It's frustrating. We both could have helped a lot to help the Raptors in this series against Cleveland. So, yeah, it is what it is. And we do what we do. And, well, Yak's got his assignment for the summer to strengthen his back and get to a good health place by the beginning of the season, and hopefully Dr. Alex and everybody. It sounds like because in the past, in the summer, Pirtle would go to Austria and just kind of be off the radar with us. It sounds like this year that Bobby, from what he said yesterday, they're going to be on him. And it could very well be that they're going to keep somebody with Pirtle all summer to make sure that he's doing the right things to help his back all summer. And it could very well be that if there is Austrian national team events this summer, that Pirtle is not available. He is not available this summer. So maybe they're going to have somebody in his vicinity for most of this offseason to really be helpful to him with nutrition and bodybuilding and getting his back stronger. Get a specialist over there. Get somebody from McKechnie's staff and let them be tethered to Yak for the summer. I love the question for Jacoby about nutrition. This is so funny because it makes me think of Scotty Barnes' Twitch family 2022 and being on Twitch with Scotty after his rookie year and watching just how bad his food was and what he was eating. And we gave him so much crap that summer. It's like, Scotty, why are you just eating chips all the time? You're eating Chick-fil-A. You're eating garbage. Just eating garbage all the time. And we kind of shamed him for it at that time. It was between shaming him for what he ate and not being at OVO Center working out. People were doing that all the time to him when he's playing the video games and just on his off time that summer. Well, Scotty learned a lesson, and we can tell with his body. You can look at his body from his rookie year and how baby fat and not as in shape. And that was the whole lesson he has, is like, to be the best player in the league and be as good as I can, I have to have better conditioning. So he really dedicated himself with his nutrition. And, we can look back at the old Twitch family stuff, watching him eat on there and be, boy, he's come a long way. And you can see it in his body and the way his muscles are more defined and there's less fat. And it's just a really more in shape person, Scotty Barnes. Well, because he did that, and I love this, and Jacoby said this, they asked him, he said, what do you do in the off season for nutrition? He said, man, I watch my vets, and that's how I learned how to take care of myself. They know when to take snacks and when you can't. And Scotty, he named Scotty as one of his role models for nutrition. And he said this too, which I love. Jacoby said, we're not kids, we're grown men, and we need to eat like men. We don't need to eat like kids. This is important because, if you really want this competitive edge in the NBA, you could be like Charles Barkley back in the day and eat a lot of unhealthy food and have a middle round and drink a lot of beer and get a beer gut. And the NBA back then, it was plumbers, right? So you can play like a plumber's body. But in today's NBA, everything is so high competitive that nutrition starts with what you put in your body. You build yourself. What you are, what you eat. And if you're going to eat junk, you'll be junk. So I like this dedication by the Raptors. They make it really easy for the players because they give them nutritional plans and they have consultants that are available to them to help them at all times. And you can tell with the outcomes of our guys' endurance and the way their bodies look and the way they play that they do take nutrition very seriously. And I'm glad Scotty switched to that, because that is a big part of the switch in him being able to play with more breath and more conditioning on the floor. And he was in turn, in years after making that switch after his rookie year, he's been a good role model for the young players like Jacoby. So I love that. I love that so much. Colin, it's funny what he said about it. He said, I didn't have a routine in college. I didn't have as much free time either because I had classes, I had tests, I had to do all my stuff at South Carolina in the classroom. But now I don't have that in my life now. And I don't miss it. Trust me. I don't miss doing schoolwork, but I have to fill my time. There's a lot more free time in the NBA in some ways, but some ways your free time is dealt with by just trying to find solace in rest time. The NBA is such a go, go, go league with travel and games and practices and stuff like that, that when Colin Murray-Boyles found moments to himself, he was just trying to get reflection and kind of just getting time to just catch up with his body and catch up with the whole grind of the NBA season. So that was interesting to me too. Yeah, Colin cannot be our center long-term. His body will take a beating. Look at all the injuries he suffered. Yes, that's exactly right. We've never wanted to have an undersized center, whether it was Chuck Hayes, Scotty Barnes, or OG Anunoby. We never wanted OG to play center, and he did have to play center for the Raptors for a little while in those dark years around Tampa. So, yeah, we never want to do that. We never want to do that because you can shorten a man's career because you're playing him out of position. KT saying this, JV retired and will probably buy a house around Wasaga Beach. If you know, you know. Ha, 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 ha. I mean, I'd like to see Valanciunas come back to Toronto just like Serge and say, this is partly home. Because I think he does believe that. I think it's more likely that he's going to come back and visit Toronto over Memphis, New Orleans, Denver, all the other teams he played for since. He was even on Sacramento for a little while there, right? So, yeah, I think Toronto is the most important city he played for in his NBA career, and he will be coming back here. And I think partly it's because of his wife also. Once again, she loves the city. She loves this Lithuanian community here. So, yeah, let's keep going. Infamous is saying this, the next level of Scotty's growth is to get to the point where we can pencil him in for consistent numbers compared to the other superstars in the league. Yes, Infamous is exactly right. And that's why the next level of conditioning and preparedness and what he's trying to do this offseason is to get to this level of breath so that he can put that exertion at both ends of the court. He's just like OG. He built his defensive side of his game first. And now with the developments at the end of the season and into the playoffs, the offensive side of power is going to be more developed next year alongside keeping that standard of the defensive energy at the same level. It's going to be awesome. And I'm looking forward to covering this on this channel next year, game to game, as far as seeing Scotty's journey from trying to be from where he started as a rookie to this point where he is going to try and be a consistent NBA superstar night in, night out. And if he can do this properly, he will get the accolades and the shine from the whole entire league because he will be a bona fide NBA superstar. And I'm with you on this, Infamous. It's the stuff that Dominique Wilkins, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan did in the past. Every game they showed up, and you could depend on them for a certain stat line. And we want Scotty to be at that point this year because we know there can be games where he has games where he's just not collecting a lot of points or stats. And, you know, he may be doing a lot of intangibles, shadow box stuff that isn't on the box score, but it's not really contributing like with visible stats. And that's the thing. We want, you know, Scotty's never averaged over 20 points per game in a season. Next year, we'd like to see that. That's what I'd like to say right there. That may be an indicator of this new shift and him being more consistent with his offense is that he finally averages over 20 points per game in the season. You know, Kaloy's saying, yeah, that was a stupid question. Why wouldn't they back? Why wouldn't they back? I don't know. What question? What are we talking about? Let's see. Kaz is saying the whole Grady thing is a joke to me. You want players that can play defense, and yet you drafted Grady knowing his defense was ass. Like what? Now all of a sudden he has to be a great defender to get PT. It was never going to happen. I know. I worry about that. I mean, in some ways, it's the way that the league's trending. You know, it could also be that, you know, when they were scouting Grady out of Kansas, he is such a young guy. They could have portended like forward that he was going to bulk out and he would be fine defensively. Part of it is also his height. Like they looked at his height and they said, well, he's not undersized height wise, but they didn't factor in that possibly Grady has an incredible metabolism and he has a very hard time building muscle on his body. You know, Grady's going to be more determined than ever, honestly, because he had visualizations for this year, much like Jacoby. And Jacoby's visualizations happened, but Grady's didn't. So in some ways this summer, he's going to have to really go back to the drawing board in some ways and really, really work extremely hard this summer because all of his gains come from this time now. It's not in the regular season. And if he doesn't come through this summer prepared for this season, well, there's all kinds of different outcomes that can happen, whether it's trade or whatever. I'm rooting for the guy, honestly, because I don't like Masai and Bobby having mistakes. And I'd like Grady Dick to turn out to not go the way of Malachi Flynn. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's a tough thing. And I get what you're saying. If you knew that this is going to be a prerequisite for our team, why would you draft a guy that's probably going to have a problem with this? I get what you're saying, Kaz. I didn't totally agree with that pick. Remember, Shaq Lindsay saying, does Dick want out because he's not happy? I don't think that's true. I think that Grady's a good kid. I think that Grady's a loyal guy. You can see how he treats Kansas and his history with them. He has it with us too. I mean, he was overjoyed when RJ hit that shot. He's a real one for our team. I really do believe that. I think that it's just a really kind of awkward position for him in some ways too, because it is Canada. And he is kind of a stranger in a strange land to a degree. But also at the same time, this has been the team that's given him the NBA opportunity so far. And there's a lot of love for that. But it's got to be confusing and tough. Both Darko and Bobby were very explicit and communicative with Grady this whole entire year and kept him in the loop on everything. So he wasn't in a weird place where he was like wondering what's going on or confused. They were definitely very open with him. It's just that in some ways, that's what you want. You want your front office and your coach to tell you where you can improve and what you need to do to get what you want. And that's what they're doing for him. Now it's up to him to put in the work this summer. And he's going to have to come back. Like Darko said, he's got to come back and prove some things next year. That's what he said. Yeah, I don't think he wants out. This is a question for all you Grady Dick supporters who want him to be successful as a Raptor. How do you think it's going to help his development when he has one foot in and the other out the door? I don't think he has that, though. Once again, the rumor came out, Grange, once again, troublemaker, trying to make up bullshit and just putting stuff out there. There's a report that Grady Dick is open to a trade. Well, I mean, in his situation, would you blame him from what happened this year? That there's a possibility for him to be in a better situation where he gets more opportunity? I mean, everybody naturally would be like this. I don't blame him for that. I think that most players on the down low, whether they say publicly or not, if they're not in exactly the right position and what they're doing on the current team, they would be open to a trade. That's really kind of a non-story. And that's just Grange pushing buttons. Maybe in some ways that's partly why is get the fans to turn on him and make a situation that's kind of confusing filled in the blank with anger and hatred. And like, why do you don't want to be here? I don't believe that. Because as soon as that report came out, Grady reaffirmed his loyalty to the Raptors with an Instagram post that showed love for the Raptors and showing pictures of him in Raptors gear and very much showing, no, I'm with you guys. Because that's the thing. You don't want to compound the problems for him. He's already got issues with trying to get his shit straight so he can stay on the team. And does he need the fans turning on him too? That's not going to help anything mentally. And, you know, the powers that be that don't like us and want to hurt us, maybe Grange is once again has some initiatives for Hockey Canada or whatever, why he does what he does. He'll try and pull things apart. And with bullshit rumors like Jakob was supposed to be traded at the trade deadline, but they didn't manage to get the deal done. You know, this stuff is not necessary to say. And in some ways, it's for click engagements and just to stir the pot and cause issues. So the thing about Grady very well may be true, but I'll bet you if you asked him in an ideal world, what would you really want, Grady? I want to kick ass this summer, kick some butt, prove something to Coach Darko, and get my spot back. I'll bet you that's what he would say to you. That's it right there. Kaloy's saying, get Kai Soto for cheap in Asia. He's balling right now in Japan. I mean, I'm all about Kai Soto. I've scouted him and what about him. But you know what? I feel like in some ways he's getting blackballed from the league for some reason because there doesn't seem like any reason why no NBA team hasn't picked him up yet. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it is that the NBA is worried about opening international channels for players in certain ways. I know they're very hesitant about the African channel that Masai had opened up. And that may be part of the reason why two Cameroonians went on Fitness to Play panel. This is the NBA is trying to weather the storm, a possibility that there's so many talented players from Africa. Maybe there's a lot of talented players in Philippines that are coming up, and they want to kind of, control the flow of these kind of players into the league. It's not like when Olajuwon showed up that they just opened the door and said, man, we got to get all these Olajuwons from Africa. Maybe they got Diop and a couple of other guys. But it's not like the doors just busted open. And think about all the guys in Africa that probably could play in the NBA right now that just don't get discovered or get that opportunity. Being in the NBA is an opportunity. And allowing those channels from different countries around the world to come in, well, in some ways, I don't want to say the negative things about why they might do this, but you can read between the lines and figure it out. So I don't know. There's something weird about Soto. Why is he not in the NBA by now? I have no idea. He should be. He should be. And maybe there's something unspoken about this whole thing. You know what I'm saying, Kaloy? And it could very well be they don't want as many people just influxing from certain countries into the NBA. And they'd rather have guys come from American colleges and universities than from overseas. You know what I'm saying? Cool Cat saying, good morning, Raptor Freak crew. Great topic discussion for today. Yeah, we got to do the exit interviews. This is a normal yearly thing where we're going to go over that kind of stuff. Get Mo Bamba, get Bobo, get Dwight Howard. Man, none of those options sound right. We did get Mo Bamba, remember? And Bobo, he's got other things to do in his life. Yeah. Shaq Lindsay, I read that one already. Cool Cat saying, we need an athletic center that can also shoot threes to stretch the floor. Well, we'll just have to see what Bobby does this summer. Once again, Cool Cat and I are in the center club. We want more than one center on this team, Webster. So Coach Cool Cat and I, we really, really want more centers on this team. We've been saying this for a few years now. Almost the whole duration of the 5 years of the Raptor Freak stream, Cool Cat and I have been saying this. That's right. Cool Cat, I hope you're having a fantastic day. You feel awesome and only good vibes, only good things coming your way. That's what I want for you. That's right. Kaz is saying being open to a trade and requesting one are two different things. Yeah. He didn't request a trade. He just said, I'm open to being traded if Bobby sees fit to do that. And it could very well be that Bobby does trade him this summer because he has a good deal in front of him. You know what I'm saying? Shaq Lindsay saying, plus, depending on who we draft, i.e., I hope we get shooting guard Cameron Carr or Isaiah Evans who are both dynamic shooters. His position can easily be replaced. I would love for Grady to stay, but he has to be all in. Well, in some ways, we've already got Battle on our team that kind of shores up some of the stuff that Grady was supposed to do. And Battle's a bigger, better rebounder and defender and much more usable. In some ways, that's part of the problem. You know, Grady was on a team this year with guys that did something similar to him, but did it better. And Jacoby Walter was one of them also. And even Abaji, while he was on our team before he got traded, was doing things better than Grady too. So he just got outshined by like 3 or 4 guys that were right around his position. And it sucks. In some ways, I want to see more opportunities for him, but also I don't want to see it at the detriment to emerging Jacoby Walter, who is absolutely somebody we need to continue investing playing time and rotational minutes in. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And in some ways, that's the thing that happened there. And we kind of could have seen this kind of developing in the rookie year of Jacoby. Is this may actually get to the point where it's between Walter and Dick. And well, it happened this year, right? It did. Let's see. Kaz is saying people that think Yak is going to get picked in an expansion draft are funny. No one is taking him at that salary. You'd be shocked. First of all, it's not going to happen because, first of all, the expansion draft is in 2 years. And there's so much time before then that things are going to be shuffled up and changed. The NBA landscape changes so fast. But I would be honest. If the Raptors left Jakob Poeltl unprotected in expansion draft, he may very well get picked just because a great starting piece for a starting franchise in expansion is a true center. So don't get it twisted, Cass. This is part of this is the Oliver Miller move right here. Oliver Miller was on a team in the NBA at an overblown salary, and the team didn't want him anymore, so they left him unprotected. Nobody thought anybody would take him, but Isaiah did take him, and he was on the original Raptors, and his salary was way overblown at that time, and everybody's like, whoa, his contract's so crazy, but Isaiah took it because he was a quality big man, and honestly, he was worth the contract when he played for us because he played above and beyond for it. But don't get it twisted. If there's a quality starting center in the expansion draft packs, they will take him. They will take him even at that price because I don't think that price is bad. That's the other thing I think with all these people. They think that Yak's contract's so bad, but it isn't really. It's just that we live in a world where economics are getting more separated from the real world and the crazy ass NBA world and the money that's there. 28 million sounds like so much money to all of us, but in the NBA in the years to come, it's not going to mean shit. It's going to be a drop in the bucket, and it's a life-changing amount of money for all the rest of us. And that's the thing we all got to remember. Y'all watch these things and you think about it from your perspective, partly from your own life and what the value of a dollar is. I get that. It's natural to be that way. But you've got to understand the NBA money in some ways is like monopoly money. We can't really look at it in a realistic way like we do in our everyday lives with the money in our wallets. That's what it is right there. And in some ways, that money for Yak is not a huge contract, in my opinion. Honestly, a lot of people think it is, but I don't. Melodic Jones is here. Thank you, Melodic Jones, for the subscription. I appreciate you. He's saying Scotty was flirting with triple-double all playoffs, maybe excluding one game in comparison to RJ. RJ was the most consistent for the year, I'd say. Well, I kind of paid attention to this, and I'll do the star report on Sunday. You know, all 7 of the games for the Raptors, I think RJ was the only one who got a star every single game because he had a consistent game all 7 games. He was one of the top 3 players on the Raptors for all 7 of the Cleveland games. So I don't know. I mean, Scotty was very consistent too. It's kind of like we're talking apples and oranges, right? Scotty has his role and he has all of his crazy duties and the things that he does. And there may be a fluctuation in his offensive output because of all the extra stuff he does, like playmaking and defense. But RJ is very steady a scorer, right? And, the scoring outputs from RJ were pretty good for the most part this whole series. There was one game where he wasn't that efficient and he shot not a very good percentage. But for the most part, RJ shot a very high efficient percentage overall. In some ways, I don't even want to make a declaration here. Why don't we just say both of them were fantastic for the series? And the comparison is not totally necessary, right? Right. Melodic Jones, thanks for the comments, man. Great topic. Yeah. Cool Cat saying the wife checking the numbers, laugh out loud. Huh? Yeah, I don't know what that was. Yeah, that's what that was. Okay, that's what that was. So the lady was like, "Who called here?" And I didn't call that number, and she called me back. So I don't understand how she got my number, but that was funny. That was a weird call, eh? There's a way with checking the numbers on the husband. Interesting. I said, "Yeah, I don't think she expected to be on the Raptor Freak channel. That's for real. Yeah. Super fan Mo saying W stream, W vibes. Thank you, Mo. I need your cutoff. I should start doing some of the tabs. I should. Let's start working through them real quick. Yeah. All right. First of all, we'll do the Toronto Tempo Redditor of the day is Crunchy777, and they're asking parking at Coca-Cola Coliseum for the game tomorrow. Anyone with advice for parking at the game? Have a unique situation where I have to be somewhere by 9:30, so I'll have to drive and likely leave early. Looking for convenience, easy access over cost for this one time. Well, if you're going to leave way early, you should be able to get out there before traffic, but I'm not totally sure about the parking situation out there myself, but we can look at some of the comments. They're saying there's 2 Green Pea underground parking lots next door at the EnerCare Center. One of them, the entrance is at 101 Canada Boulevard, just off Strawn by the Princess of Wales Gates. Lot 850. I believe it's $15 after 6. It's probably $30 though, is what they're saying on an event night. There's also a soccer game tomorrow night, so some of the parking will be taken up by people going to BMO Field to watch soccer. There's also a Green Pea outside the GO station at Liberty Village, and you can actually just park at that GO station and walk through the station, and the venue is right there. So yeah, there's actually quite a few parking options around Coca-Cola Stadium, or Coliseum. So yeah, there's your Toronto Tempo Redditor of the day asking about the parking. Crunchy777. So keep that in mind. The best way to go to the game, honestly, is transit. If you don't need to get in traffic downtown, take the streetcar on Bathurst from Bathurst Station, or go all the way to Union and take that streetcar on the Lakeshore that will take you to the Exhibition Loop. That's the best way to get there, honestly. That's the way I always used to go there when I used to work at the Ontario Place and had to go to that area on transit. Let's see if there's any breaking news real quick online, real quick. Let me see. The Golden State Valkyries have waived Kate Martin because I guess she's just waived at this point. Oh, interesting there. That's it. That's the only thing I see on the breaking news. Y'all, straight goods on Canadian goods. Our secret to creating high quality and great tasting pasta is simple. The finest 100% Canadian wheat combined with modern technology and made in Canada with the utmost care. For pasta lovers, Ital Pasta. That's right. Ital Pasta has been around for since 1989. It's a Canadian pasta company that makes all their pasta from Canadian wheat and grain. And you can get gluten-free pasta from them. They have spaghetti, penne, fusilli, elbows, everything, spaghettini. That's right. So if you're looking for a good pasta maker in Canada that is straight up Canadian and you're supporting Canadian company, Ital Pasta is the brand in your grocery store you should pick up. It is definitely a 100% Canadian company, and you will be supporting the economy of Canada. So Ital Pasta, that's your pasta needs at the grocery store. Toronto Tempo, Redditor of the day, Dragon Leaf 16,000. Let's give a round of applause to Darko and the coaching staff for doing such an amazing job with the defense in the playoffs and getting everyone to buy in. Game 4 was a win that was full of pure heart and energy. I know, I was there in person on the defensive end, and Darko and his guys did a great job. Let's hope with some extra bodies next season, we can push for a top 3 defense. There you go. I love the positive Redditors, the ones that want to get praise and shout out and say good things. So Dragon Leaf 16,000, you are the Raptors Redditor of the day for wanting to give an applause for Darko. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, birthday for today. Happy birthday to a guy who really didn't want to be a Raptor, and he was here very shortly. And it's kind of sad because he is a great NBA player, and he's somebody that I like to watch when he played for Phoenix. But yeah, we're talking about 1-year Raptor, Sean Marion. It is his birthday today. He played with the Raptors for 1 season, and it was really only a half season. It was in 2008, 2009 that Sean Marion was on our team, and then he got traded, I think, to Miami or something like that. But yeah, he was played for the Raptors for 27 games. He started all 27 games that he played for us, and he averaged about 14 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, and 2 assists, and also a steal. So yeah, happy birthday to Raptor Sean Marion, even though the Matrix never really wanted to be here, and he got out of here as quick as he could. And in some ways, he has shown up and done some of the Raptors celebration videos for different things that have been filmed in the last couple of years, the 30th anniversary. So he isn't totally against appearing in our history, but also at the same time, I could tell that man didn't want to be here, and he got out of here as quick as he could. So yeah, happy birthday, Sean. You are a Raptor in the history of the Raptors, but I know you never wanted to be. Sean Marion, happy birthday. All right, let's see what else you guys are saying in the chat real quick. Let's see. Infamous is saying, good point, Lex, about trades with Dallas. They do have some nice bigs. That's what I'm saying. You know, Masai, see if you can help out old Raptors here and Bobby Webster. Maybe you could send us Omax Prosper or something like that. Send us some Canadian content. You know, he did mention Ryan Nebhart in his press conference yesterday, and that made me happy. That Masai's like, I like Ryan Nebhart. I was like, that's cool. Yeah, of course he's going to like a kid from Aurora up in Canada, a Canadian man like Masai Ujiri, because he is Canadian. Everybody's got to remember that. He is a naturalized Canadian citizen living in Texas now. But yeah. Could you get Omax up here somehow, some way? We would love to have Omax, right? That's what I would say right there. Yeah, Smooth saying this, all the hate speech, AI, and misinformation on social media. I agree with you, Lex. You know, they would get all pissed, and the kids will probably be like rebels. It'll be like little preteens drinking, and when they shouldn't because it's against the law, but they might be sneaking on social media because it's against the law, being rebellious and stuff like that. But it might be for their own good. Seriously. Because honestly, the tips of your finger on a computer, you can see the most horrific things in the world if you know where to look. And we don't, you can put all the parental controls you want on stuff. Kids are smart and they will figure out ways to get around stuff, and they will get to these things. And honestly, I couldn't imagine being a parent and having to raise a kid in this world right now with AI and all this stuff going on right now. It's got to be a headache, and it's just got to be a lot. You better be a present parent is what I'm saying. If you're an absent parent and you just work all the time and you are not involved in your child's life and you do not understand what they're doing, well, somebody out there is messing with their minds, and you may not even know it. And this is how incels get developed. This is how young little terrorists get developed, or school shooters get developed, because you aren't paying attention to your kid. And the internet's taking care of your kid. And the internet is toxic as fuck and molding their minds in very, very messed up ways. Yeah. In some ways, it's a very drastic measure to make. And in some ways, maybe there's a middle ground on it that makes sense more. But I think in some ways, with the epidemic of things and the whole sociological ramifications that we don't know the full extent of, in some ways, we may be making a lot of little monsters, and we don't even realize it right under our own midst, because there's absent parents that have to bust their ass and work all the time. And they're instead of the kid getting brought up by television, like my generation, they're getting brought up by the internet. And there's a lot of folly in that. Almago, 2027. Good morning. Thank you for the subscription. You said, I don't know if you already talked about this, but what are your speculations on Mamu next year? I'm looking forward to see him get more minutes. Thanks for the question. We did touch on this a little bit much earlier in the stream, near the beginning, but I'll go over it really lightly again, real quick. Going by what I heard from Mamu and going by what I heard from Bobby, both sides want him to be back next year, but nothing will be decided until July, when free agency period opens. And the big deciding factor may be, El Mago, the other teams in the league and what they're willing to pay Sandro. If a team like the Magic, let's say, just because they did this with Biyombo, comes around and says, we're going to pay you $10 million a year to come play for the Magic, and we're only offering him $5 million, then there may be a tough decision there, right? So from what it sounds like, Bobby is willing to work really hard to get Sandro back. So he's definitely coveted and wanted to come back. And Sandro himself is very much wanting to come back also. He loves Toronto. He loves the team. He loves the role he played this year. And he does want to expand and continue to be in a place where he belongs and he feels wanted. And that's definitely here in Toronto. But we know the business of the game can get in the way. And it could very well be another team comes with a huge money and the agent's like, I recommend you take this money. I know you love Toronto, but you know, that's what's going to happen around July. It could very well be we are the team that matches and we are the team he comes back to too. But that's really kind of the way it's going to be sussed out. So, and Bobby couldn't give us a clear answer on this in the interview yesterday. He said, we're really until we see how the dust settles after the playoffs and how the other teams and they are with their salary caps and their situations and what they are able to offer him will be a big factor in whether we retain Mamu for next year. So, yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you on all this. I want to see him become a bigger role and an even better player for us next year, too. But a lot of things got to happen a certain way. We love Sandro and his friend Alessandro from Italy that came to the games and was his photographer and was around. I got to meet him this year. He's a fantastic guy. He's just a really, really cool dude. Check him out. He's on Instagram taking pictures of Mamu all the time. He's tagged on Mamu's things. He's like 4A Goose, 4AG TV. You know, those are his accounts. And he's a very talented photographer. So, yeah, I hope he does stick around. I really do. Great question. And I'm very happy to go over it again for you real quick. Let's see. Kaloy saying, it's so funny. The reporting was it's for Sabonis. Now it's for JJJ. I know they switch it around. In some ways, once again, let's not listen to any U.S. media about Toronto Raptors. They do not know what they're talking about. First of all, they don't pay attention to us. And half of their motives for writing anything about us is to shade us, gaslight us, or mislead us. And there are reputable sources for Raptors news that are from Toronto. And those are people like Josh Lundberg, Blake Murphy, Doug Smith, who, God willing, he's doing okay. And we hope that Doug Smith recovers and he's going to be all right. Blake Murphy, Michael Grange, even though he's an asshole, he's still a reliable source of Raptors news to a degree, although he does do rumors also. Yeah, Almago's saying, now that Shaq Lindsay talked about the draft, I would love that we get Mara as a center. I would say that we got nice history with Spaniards. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Mara is going to be a lottery pick, though, and we're going to be picking at 19. So I've heard that it's not realistic that we would get that big man because he's probably going to be long gone off the board before then. I love being where we are in the draft. I know a lot of people make discussions about trading up or stuff like that. That's all extraneous stuff. In some ways, it's best to use what you got. And, well, we got Jacoby Walter at 19th in the draft a few years ago. So we can get quality at 19. And Bobby's very confident that this year's draft is deep and very talented. And knowing the way that he has worked in the past and with Masai in the past, he's going to find a good person at 19. And he doesn't need to trade up or down or anything like that. He'll get a quality person that will help our team next year. It just may not be a center. They don't have a proclivity to draft centers, obviously, because we've seen that because they're projects and they take time to come along. And they're more likely to do something like Sandro and sign a guy who's a couple years in, who's a proven commodity in the NBA as a valued player who will play for you and do contributions, than get a young guy who may not play hardly at all. And we've seen Common this year with Phoenix and his project and how he is for Phoenix Suns. And, well, we're in win now mode halfway, kind of. We got the playoffs and having Murray-Boyles able to participate and be very much a huge contributor for the Raptors in the playoffs his first year as a rookie. Well, in some ways, that gives more credence to the whole philosophy. You don't draft true centers that are projects that have a high bustability factor. So I really do think the Raptors' MO for getting centers is through trade or free agency and not through the draft, unfortunately. Almago's saying, I don't think so, Kaloy. Will Mara be available at 19? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think he will be. Yeah, you love Maria Conde, Spaniard, who's on the Tempo, and she's going to be making her debut for the Toronto Tempo tomorrow, God willing. She doesn't get cut today, and she will be an original Toronto Tempo player. Yeah, Conde really impresses me. She's somebody that has so regarded in Eurobasket and the things she's done for Team Spain And I know that she's very close with the Gasol brothers and the Hernan Gomez brothers. So it's very fun to have a Spanish player on the tempo also starting this season. I'm excited about Maria. I think that she's going to be a huge breakout star this year in the WNBA as a rookie, and that a lot of people are going to be like, whoa, we've been waiting for her to come over. And wow, now she's finally here. It's Tony Kukoc kind of Arvidas Sabonis kind of stuff here, where she'll show up and she's a savvy pro from her years in Europe, and she'll be ready to go right away. And she'll actually be a very good contributor for Sandy Brondello's team right from the start. So I'm looking forward to the Seminole Maria Conde suiting up for the tempo. It's going to be fun. Yeah. Superfan Mo saying, can we still get Dayron Sharp? I want him so bad. Still, send help. Omax is with the Grizzlies now. Oh, he's with the Grizzlies now. So he got traded over there. Okay. Well, we'll just have to see who they got. Yeah, I'd like to get Dayron Sharp. I know Scotty would like us to get Dayron Sharp. But, there were kind of tells that Dayron doesn't want to play for us. There was the last game of the season. There was an incident that happened with the Brooklyn Nets game, the last game of the season, where somebody did some move to Jakob, and Dayron was laughing and really kind of being an asshole on the bench. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to happen. In some ways, Jordy probably values him immensely to be on the Nets, like Claxton and Clowney. And it may very well be that even though we thought Dayron Sharp was available around the trade deadline this year, he wasn't. And Jordy Fernandez wants him on their team. I'd love to get Dayron Sharp, but I don't know if he's available. And that may not be something that happens. Yeah, Omax is a Grizzly now. Okay. You follow players. Okay. What flag is that? I don't know that flag. Fiercey, you might have to write in that flag because I don't recognize that flag. And I apologize. Is that Haiti? Is that Haiti flag? It could be. Kaloy saying, looks like Mamu really appreciated how Darko lets him be himself and took a pay cut even this year. Yeah. In some ways, you could tell Mamu got emotional about this part of the interview. He said, everybody's judging me to think that I just care about money. No, I could have gotten way more money at the beginning of this year to go to another team, and I chose fit. So in some ways, the overtures are he does value fit over the most money he can make, and that will really benefit us in our favor. Possibly. We'll see. It could actually be also his agents recommending him, this is the biggest payday you'll ever get in your life, and you need to take it now, and you need to get it right now because there's no, you'll never see this kind of money ever again. This is the kind of thing right there. Yeah. Bobby will probably offer a smaller per year, but longer contract. No, I don't think that's true. I think that he'll get a pay up because honestly, the stats on Mamu is that he was such a value contract. We paid him like $2 million a year, right? $2 million this year. And they said like with his output and the way he played on the court, he was actually like a $12 million player this year. So we got huge value out of Mamu. He may have been one of the most valuable contracts in the whole entire league this season. So I would say this is probably reasonable for Bobby to up him to $5 million per year, but some other team may want to give him $10 million per year. And that's the difference right here and what I'm talking about. He'll get bumped up from $2 million to $5 million on the Raptors, but it could very well be somebody in another team that has more money available and values him will say, we want you for $10 million a year, though. And that's where things could go off the rails with him coming back, just so you know. Yeah, Haiti flag. I was right. That is the Haitian flag. Awesome. I figured it was because of North Montreal's finest, Luguet's Dort, and that is one of the players you follow, like Benedict Mathurin. That's right, the North Montreal Haitian guys. Those guys are awesome, man. All right, let me keep going in the tabs real quick. Oh, I think it is time for the classic card, guys. So let's go ahead and do the classic card of the day, and we'll wrap up things today. Great session today. We got a couple of calls. One call was interesting. One call was interesting. That's for sure. That's right. One call was very interesting. Okay, we're going to go back, and we got another center from the 80s, 90s, and we'll see if anybody recognizes this one. All right, be ready, Slug DZ. It is time for the classic card of the day. Full name answer, please. Full name answer. I know that looks like somebody that you think that is, but that isn't who that is. Is that Larry Bird? Yeah, that is Larry Bird. Larry Bird in the background there. But who is the Piston, guys? Let's see who it is, man. Fiercey saying, got to listen to the replay for the call. I'm curious now. Yeah, that call was hilarious, man. Scott Hastings, Smooth got it. Yeah. This is the one of the announcers for the Denver Nuggets at this point, Scott Hastings. He is an NBA champion on the Bad Boys with the Pistons at that time, but he was the third center. This is what I'm saying. These guys like this could not survive the NBA today. These guys would be like the third backup center on the end of the bench. You got James Edwards, Bill Laimbeer, and then you got Scott Hastings back there with William Bedford too. And they had like 4 centers on their team. And wow, NBA teams can't run with 4 true centers anymore. And Scott Hastings barely played. And partly it was because he was a lumbering guy who was very slow getting up and down the court. He was just height and size and strength. And that's good in the old NBA. But the new NBA, we get an up-tempo game. You get left in the dust. You're useless to us. And you're just a big hole in our contract on our salary cap because we have to pay so much for your size. That's the thing about centers now in today's game. It's like you have to have them still to an extent to deal with people like Jokic and Embiid. But you also have to ride that fine line of them being absolutely useless in the league because the league is more up-tempo. Jakob is an up-tempo center that can run with the guys. He doesn't just walk up the court like Scott Hastings used to, is what I'll say. This is a good card. Very good job by Reggie. So I'm going to go ahead and give Reggie a good number here. I gave Slug Deezy 300 yesterday for Eric Lechner. We're going to do it again. 300 points for Smooth Brown Man for Scott Hastings, the voice of the Nuggets. He does do commentary for the Nuggets right now. I think he's like Leo for them. He sits in the studio before the game. Or wait, no, he's Alvin. He actually sits in the games and does the color commentary in the games for the play-by-play. That's right, because I seen him on the court with he's the Nuggets broadcast. Yeah, no problem, Reggie. My pleasure, man. Raptor Freak Trivia Champion, current champion, Smooth Brown Man. That's right. His name's right there on that trophy right there. All right, I guess I'm finishing up. We're just about 10 minutes from 3 hours, and Monique is telling me to go rest. She's right. I'm going to go watch Survivor after this. No spoilers, Josh Lundberg. I got to watch Survivor now because I don't watch it live on the night because I had things to do last night. So I'll watch it now with my folks, and we'll see what happened on Survivor last night. Survivor 50 has been excellent. It's been so fun. It's been goofy as hell with all the celebrity interactions, but it's also very fun to see the classic players from the years of the Survivor game come back and play in this very crazy, intense season, because this is not a normal Survivor season. It's bigger and better for sure, and it's been very exciting and fun. You know, I lost all my players, Kaz. Just real quick, an aside. I know Kaz has an interest in Survivor. I have had all my players eliminated now at this point. All 6 of my players are gone, with Christian and Stephanie going recently. Yeah, they were my last 2 players, and I have nobody on my fantasy Survivor team at this point. I am out for the season. They're all gone. And meanwhile, I think my mom has all of her team except for 1 left. I know it sucks. I thought I picked good people. I had Camilla, Kyle, I had Stephanie, I had Christian, I had Jenna, and I had I had Charlie. Yeah, they're all gone. They all got voted out. They're all out. Your favorite left is Ozzy and Sari. You know who I'm rooting for to win at this point? I want Aubrey to win. I know. After she ate that grub last week, I was like, she's a badass. She deserves a win. Look at her. She's like, I'm psycho. And she's like, ah. She's like eating that grub. I'm like, yeah, give her the $2 million, Jeff Probst. Give her the $2 million. And that whole Mr. Beast coin flip thing, that was so anticlimactic. They made such a big deal out of it. Honestly, that auction last week was one of the worst auctions in Survivor history. The best part was Aubrey eating the grub, but there was no twist to it. You basically fed them, Jeff. You were just like, there's chaos and a treat in some of these. I'm like, where's the chaos? This is bullshit. It was really kind of not that good. Yeah, Kat's saying, yeah, she was awesome doing that, especially for someone else to have something. They edited out a lot of the auction. Well, they edited out the other boring parts where they kept the interesting parts. And I didn't really need to see Sari puking around the corner in the bushes. It's like, I don't want to hear people. Anyway, if you watch Survivor, you know. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching the Raptor Freak stream today. Let's go Raptors. Let's go Tempo. Tomorrow, regular season game. First one in the history of our Toronto Tempo and WNBA team, and I'll have the preview for the Tempo game tomorrow, treating it like I do a Raptors game on a game day, getting you set up with all the latest lineup news, a ref report, and all the other stuff just to get ready for the very first Toronto Tempo season game tomorrow. This is going to be awesome, man. Yeah. Kaz is saying the funny thing is people thinking Ozzy leveled up, but it's just Sari thinking for him. No, it's smart. It's a good partnership. And the thing I don't understand, especially in the last 2 weeks, is how are you so stupid, Stephanie, that you're going to go to Sari and tell her that you want to vote out Ozzy? Like, isn't there a precedent in the last few seasons of Ozzy and Sari working together as a team? Like, not just on Survivor, but on other reality shows? So it's like, are you dumb? Like, are y'all so stupid? I'm going to come up to Sari and say, hey, we're going to vote out Ozzy. Okay. Sari's like this. Okay. All right. Okay. She's like, and then she turns around. No. And then, like, she's the godmother of the whole show. And she's like, no, they're out now. It's like, you want to mess up on Survivor? Go tell Sari you want to vote out Ozzy. You'll find the door real quick. That's what I'm finding right there. All right, let's go. Tempo. Let's go. Tempo. Woo. Let's go Raptors too. Off season, baby. Let's go, Bobby Webster. You know what you got to do. That's right.